music because it was so loud on my end. I'm thinking you're going to go deaf before you start the show. Was it loud?
It
Did
was
it?
pretty loud, but it's okay.
Ooh,
I'm
it was
still here.
it was incredibly loud on my end. I'm like, I'm going totally deaf here. Oh my god. Anyway, it just made me laugh because I'm like, oh, that wasn't the plan. Um, don't know why I did that. But anyway, so there. If you're new to the show, you know that sometimes I have technical difficulties. Um, my internet just went down right for the show, so that was fun. And then I have lovely people here saying things like this. Oh, Pat always sails through. Thank you, Mama. Not always. Um, and she's so tech savvy, gremlins and all. If you've seen some of my shows, you know things didn't exactly pan out, but oh well, that's life, and I don't worry about it. Anyway, I want to thank everybody who's here. Let me just run through who is here. Benny's here on the telephone. I know you've all been waiting for Benny to call in. Benny is calling in from. You want to tell us, Benny?
Now I can only disappoint.
No, no, no. Come on now. It's
Yeah,
it's 9 o'clock where Benny is, everybody. So
it is. Yeah,
it's
it's in the
Benny
night.
is calling from Denmark, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yes. And for all of you who know me, I only actually remember one line in Danish because I lived in Denmark for 6 months. I lived in Albertslund for 6 months, and I only thing I remember, and I'm going to say this completely wrong, Benny, so you can mock me and make fun of me and tell me don't ever do that again. But jeg vil have en rugbrød. It's the closest I can come.
Yeah, you're talking about the bread, the
Yes,
rugbrød.
at least close.
Yeah,
Okay, it's supposed to be. I will have some brown bread, some rugbrød.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But it's been
But it's very
30, 40, no, wait a minute. 20, I was there when I was 23. It's been 43 years since I've been in Denmark. So that long. Yeah.
so
So,
I'm amazed you can even remember anything.
well,
I'm amazed.
that's
Yeah.
pretty much it. And I do want you to know, though, my story about this is I actually got the highest grade in my class. I was going to a university there for 6 months on an exchange, and we were taking Danish class, of course, and so we were
Mm.
taking our final exam, and we went to this I don't know, a place where the teachers were, and it turned out I was the last person to go to do my exam. But meanwhile, we found all the Tuborg beer they had stashed there, so we drank the Tuborg beer, and we pulled
Yeah.
through, and by the time they got to me, I'd been through a lot of Tuborg beer, and so I went in. And because I was drunk, I had a great accent. I had a great accent and I could make jokes because I couldn't come up with an answer, so I just make up a new answer because I really was a little happy. And I had the highest grade in the class.
It's really funny because it's almost the same as like if I do an introduction of myself now, because you can hear my English is broken, but I try my
It's
best. But
pretty not
after
broken
a few
now.
beers, it's
It's much
much
better.
better with the American. Yeah,
Well,
but
and hey, wait a
yeah,
minute. We have to understand for the Americans. Now, you may disagree with this because you are Dane, so you're going to say, "Hey, don't say that about our language." But your language for foreigners is best spoken when you're frozen or you're drunk because your mouth doesn't move as much, right?
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
yeah,
but anyway,
we often teased about our language.
yes,
They call it a disease.
they call it a throat disease. Oh, that's so
but
cruel. But yes, I had
but
6 months in
but
Denmark, so yeah.
yeah, now you'll have a couple of hours with the Danish guy
There
again.
we go. There we
but
go. Fabulous. All right, let me just welcome everybody here, besides you, because you're here. Christine is here. Lisa came and left because she's bad timing for her. Molly is here. Let's see who else is here. Christine, oh God, I just said it. Gretchen is here. Who else is in here? It's a weird time of day for a lot of people. So, but I wanted you to be able to be awake when you called in, because if I do it at 7 in the evening, it's 1 o'clock in the morning for you, and I think that's a little cruel, unless you're
exactly.
a super night person like me, and
Yeah,
I don't really care.
I would have done it anyway.
Well, in that case, I should have. But anyway, so this is exciting.
Yeah.
I want to tell everybody out there who is new to this, if you're interested in joining in any of the live shows, look below, click on Patreon. and join Patreon. I only have my Patreon people in my live shows, in my chat room, because that means we're all friends and we're a great community. We don't have a lot of unusual folk coming in and causing lots of trouble. And it also supports the channel. So you can look at the different levels of Patreon and decide what's good for you. And I'm just going to leave that at that. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do that. It helps tremendously with the algorithm, which doesn't like me that much anyway. And like this video, and also hit the bell so you get some notifications. And if you're in a true crime group, just share with everybody. So anyway, I do these. Right now I'm doing 2 live call-ins a month, and these are completely unstructured, as opposed to my other shows. So if Benny doesn't have anything interesting to say, we are screwed. But I'm going to let you know, Benny has a list. I mean, he's got a list of all these things we're going to talk about. So I think we're going to be.
I even cut it down today because I thought it would be too long.
Well, you know, Benny, you can come back, Benny. You know. So,
we can do that.
You're a special guest today, and because of your list, I think you might be the one and only. And some. In the shows of the future, we're going to definitely have more than one person calling in. But you know, everybody's been really shy, so we've had a couple shows with one person each, and they've been great. And I'll tell you the fun thing about this, guys. When you call in, you know, I wasn't sure how many people on YouTube would find these call-ins interesting because they're not focused on a specific case, and they're completely open, and you know, they're really popular. And I'm like, really? Okay, this is cool, because they're enjoying, I think, our discussions, our real discussions, and so they're not just between, you know, a few professionals who all are doing their, you know, their professional thing, so that everybody thinks, you know, what are they keeping from us? You know, or they've already planned everything out. We can't, you know, there's no challenge. But I think Benny's going to give me a challenge today. So
I'll try. But with deep respect, of course. But actually, there are tight. Molly is saying your audio is very low on Pat's side.
Wait a minute, my audio is low? Really? Okay, everybody give me a viewpoint on that. Benny's good, my audio. Okay, I'm going to turn my, because we had this problem. I turned it down because I was, okay, how about this? Tell me when it hit. Is this good? Because I'm moving it up. Tell me if it's good or it's too buzzy. Okay, somebody tell me.
From my side, it's perfect. You are coming in clear and loud.
Yeah, but we're on a different place than what's coming through the video. So somebody now tell me. I just turned it up. And it's a little buzzier, but let's see. That is my. How am I sounding now, everybody? I can move this in too. Okay, tell me how I'm sounding. Up more? Seriously? Oh man. See something? See, there's a technological glitch. So. I'm gonna have to put a little, you know, thing on the thing. Like it's not. You're not gonna hear anything until such and such. Now I'm good. Okay, really? Christine, am I good or not good? Sounds better for Gretchen. Okay. See, it's a really weird balance between the hummy, buzzy thing I get and not being able to hear me. Okay, Christine says it's good, so I'm gonna leave it there. All right. So now onward. So Betty, what is your number 1 topic today?
Oh well, yeah. If it's okay, I just want to introduce myself a little bit to the patrons, because I feel like now is the chance also to get to know me a little bit, and we already got to know a few of the others. So I'm male, as you guessed. I'm from Denmark, and if other people beside you, Pat, I think what is Denmark? Denmark is Lego toy. There's Hans Christian Andersen, the writer, with fairy tales like The Little Mermaid. Carlsberg, you mentioned tuba, but I think Carlsberg it's much more known. Okay. And I can tell you that I'm in my mid-50s. I'm married for 20 years, but to a wonderful Filipina.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I have a daughter turning 14. So
fantastic.
Yeah, lot of trouble.
Yes. Good luck.
So, at the end of the show, I have 2 special questions for you.
Okay.
Just
I will either answer them or I won't answer them, but I'll let you ask them.
Exactly.
See how I work?
Don't worry.
I control the show.
Yeah, you just cut me off. And also a little disclaimer, because normally when we talk about true crime, you know, it's mostly about some gore things and like that. Now, I want to say it's been more than 20 years since I have an interest and read about serial killers, because I really don't think they deserve fame and glory for anything they did. So the less we mention the names, the better. However, it is impossible not to mention at least 3 of the names in this show, as I want to use them to make a point of discussion. Not about their horrible killings, but something we can learn from, maybe some valuable lessons from these cases, things that you have already pointed out previously in some shows. So I want to say I'm in it for the glory of those who put criminals behind bars, and profiling has helped for that. And plus I also really only have an interest in discerning what is real evidence, to scrutinize this and to discern what is probable and not just only possible.
Very good. Excellent point. Yes.
And what would hold up in court.
Just let me interrupt. One of the biggest problems we have on YouTube with so many of these shows is that they'll go with possible or even improbable as, oh, this could have happened, and you're like, oh Lord. And it starts a lot of gossip and a lot of finger pointing and a lot of crazy profiling, which is absolutely ludicrous. Armchair profiling, not real profiling. And so your point, possible, you can keep that over here. I'm not saying you should ignore possible, but then probable makes more sense, and improbable should probably be very far down on the list. And so what you're doing is, if you're a detective or a profiler, you're working through the evidence to come up with the most logical, rational theory that will help the investigation, not just like, we can pick anything out of a hat and let's go with that. So I like that point, Benny.
Yeah, and actually that is part of what you have taught me on these shows, how to discern it, because for a layman it's very hard to discern, because it could be spin one way, it could be it could be half truth, and you assume things, but you really taught me a lesson.
Well, good. But also I want to say.
No, many things, and also I just want to say at the start of the show here that I like laughter and comedy much more than crimes and killers. So I watch sitcoms. My favorite sitcom is Seinfeld. Yeah,
you're a Seinfeld fan. Okay.
Yeah, and Cosby Show. You brought up Cosby the other day. I must admit I checked all the shows when I was a teenager, because I loved Cosby, and he was the real star, Dr. Huxtable of the show, right? And my favorite comedian is Norm Macdonald. You're familiar with him.
He's so funny. He's so funny. And Benny sent me over a link. I'll put it below. I'm gonna put the link below, because that was so funny. He's talking about making a shallow grave to put people in, because serial killers always. He's like, why are there always shallow graves? Why don't they dig better? And it was absolutely great. It's very funny. So I'm gonna put that link below, Benny, because I thought that was really funny. So
fantastic. Yeah. And also, how did I become interested in true crime? Let me say first, I wasn't interested in true crime when I was a young kid. I was interested in TV shows like Quincy and especially Columbo. I love Columbo.
Okay.
Still, I think
you were
Columbo
interested in the
best show.
Investigative detective aspect, which is that's what brought me in. I was never interested in true crime. I was always a Sherlock Holmes type of person who liked the puzzle and the evidence. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, but the start of the true crime was in the 80s. Even in Denmark, Ted Bundy was really big news at that time. He was portrayed as Ted Bundy, and he was portrayed in the media and the news. He was a lot in the news because this was such a big case, and he was portrayed as a genius, and he was smart. He was charming and all these things. But I later found out that he was not portrayed correctly. But after Bundy, in the mid-90s, and here's the case that really set me off with true crime, and it was the Sandra Sierra case. Now, Sandra Sierra, just to make a brief introduction to that case. 12 years old girl was killed in the most brutal way. She was tortured by 4 teenagers.
Hours and hours and hours.
Yeah. And it made me physically sick the first time I read it, and it was in the mid-90s. It was after the crime. It happened in 1992. So these 4 teenage girls, they are all out of prison today. So it really it does something to my sense of justice that they are out of prison. But
You
hey,
know,
that's
Benny, I did not know about that case, and so when you mentioned it to me in an email, I looked it up, and I had that same revulsion. It was like an incredibly
yeah,
grotesque case where you have a 12-year-old girl who was lured out of her home by, well, there were four girls, and
yeah,
um, one of them was the one who got the longest sentence, who deserved the longest sentence, really was a psychopath and a half, and she was
yeah,
the most vicious and sadistic of them all. And then you had another girl who was pissed off that this 12-year-old had stolen her girlfriend as a lover, and so she instigated it. But the other girl came from a really bad background, let me say that, and
yeah,
she was more vicious and sadistic than the one who lost the girlfriend. So the two of them were like the big instigators, and they brought along two other
yeah.
girls who a lot of times stayed in the car when everything was going down, but kind of didn't stop it. And it was so vicious and so brutal. I don't, you know, it was, it did make your stomach turn horribly, and I can see why that would affect you. And yes, they're out of prison, especially the worst ones are out of prison. And I'm like,
Mm,
this especially the one who did the highest level of torture and all that. She ought to never see the light of day again. But
I agree.
she's
And
out. She's
and
probably what? How when she got out? How old was she, Benny? Because she was like,
out. She got out in 2018 or 2019.
right. So
Melinda
she's
Loveless.
like what? 30,
Oh,
37
yeah,
or
it was
something.
like
Yeah.
yeah, because it's like 30 years ago. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so she has the
So
rest of her
she was,
life to live,
yeah,
this sadistic, horrible,
yeah,
murderous
yeah,
psychopath. In
yeah.
society.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly, and I just remember because when you describe how you felt when you read about John Walls and the
Right.
effect it had on him, when you realized it was almost like it's the same when I
Yeah.
read about it. I even I sometimes I show I like to show these cases from my wife and my daughter, not the horrible cases, but I
Well,
told myself
yeah, try to
I will
hold back
never
a little,
show
Benny,
this
you know?
case. I'll never show this case with Sandy Sheriff for my wife, but actually I did, and we were so disgusted by it, and still, and yeah, and even though I watched a lot, this is still I can't get past it.
And
It's
it's
just the start of my
right. And it's
my
hard to
adventure.
understand. It's hard to understand how four teenage girls, because we usually think of violence being a male thing, to tell you the truth. And so four teenage girls under the age of 18 all conspired to torture this girl for really no good reason whatsoever, because it wasn't like she was offensive to them. It wasn't like she had been
No,
bullying them or had saying nasty things about them. That wasn't it.
no,
It's simply that the one girl, apparently there was a little bit of a gay triangle here, and so the one girl
no,
had a girlfriend, and then that had broken up, and this 12-year-old girl, I'm not sure why everybody has girlfriends at 12 years old or boyfriends, but okay. So anyway, she hooked up with this girl and was her
yeah,
girlfriend, and so the spurned lover was the one that instigated this, but the
yeah.
most vicious girl really had no reason to be upset with the victim at all, but she enjoyed,
That's
she
true.
was such a sadist, is such a vicious person. She was into the
Yeah.
occult. She was
Yes.
heavily into the occult, and people don't understand that you don't have to be hooked up with any quote satanic organization. You just have to be into the incredibly evil, dark thinking of mayhem, of cruelty, of violence, of blood, and all that put together, and you get a joy, a kick out of seeing it for yourself and participating in it and committing it. And that's what that girl was. So it
Yeah.
turned out to be a really sad case of two girls who probably wouldn't have gone that direction if they hadn't run into these other two girls. And and if
Exactly.
and if the sadistic girl hadn't been pushed by the spurned lover girl, may never have happened. But and the spurned lover girl herself may never have committed the crime. But then she hooked up with a sadistic girl who was into
Yeah.
Satanism. It's like
Exactly.
everything, you know. Oops, I
Yeah.
just hit my
But that was
horrifying
yeah.
crime. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That was Laurie Tackett you're describing. Yeah, but the other two, and I think this is interesting with the case because of the peer pressure, because they had no relation to this girl, and
No.
but 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 you think they were actually doing stuff torturing Sunday Shero also. They were part of it, and just the morale of the ethic and morale of a normal person would say, I can never do that. I could never do that. This just shows that there was no empathy or anything, because otherwise you could never do that to another person for so long. Maybe in an instant, just in a rage or something, but not for hours.
And this went on for hours, and there were many opportunities for the other girls to fight back or to say stop this.
Exactly.
And they didn't do it. And it is a horrifying. I think it was a horrifying kind of an insight to when society raises children who become highly unempathetic and highly immoral and unethical. They just grow up with some kind of world that doesn't require them to have, a level of sensibility toward the right things or the good things, and it's shocking. And so that happened way back. And it happened. What was that? 30? Was it 30 years ago now? So
1992. That was That was when it happened.
And we've seen since then other crimes similar to this, and so it's not the only crime out there, but it certainly was. Whoa, I see why I got you. I see.
Yeah, that was the first time I ever heard of anything as horrible as that, and it stays with me even today. And I might be overprotecting my daughter because of this, because it's just really. Yeah.
And if anybody, by the way, you're talking about overprotection, if anybody hasn't ever read my book called, what is it called?
How to Protect.
Wait, I gotta look at my book. It's on the shelf. I forgot my own book. Oh yeah, How to Save Your Daughter's Life. I forgot. How to Save Your Daughter's Life. I went through all the different things that your daughter can get involved with that you don't even realize is happening, which can be her peer group. It can be it can be some older guy, it can be drugs, it can be prostitution, stuff on the internet. I go through all of that. It is, unfortunately, I'd say if you want a good copy of it, go to eBay and buy yourself a cheap copy that's in print, because it's out of print on Amazon, and they have only the audio, and I personally can't stand the woman who, normally on my other books they have me do the audio, but they have this, I don't know who the woman was. They never even told me about it. So the publishers went behind my back and hired somebody else to do the audio, and she's like so sweet, and I'm like, sweet has never really been attached to my name, and it's like so sweet that I'm like, it's just the wrong concept for this book. So I like, don't get the audio, man. Just go to eBay and get yourself a print copy. But I think
I am really gonna get the audio version.
No, don't do that. It's horrible. But what I put in the book, people started getting upset. They say, "Oh, you're blaming victims," and I'm like, I'm not blaming victims. What I'm trying to do is show you what is out there, because you're thinking that these things aren't out there. But when your daughter starts hooking up with certain people, gets certain ideas in her head, and is willing to step over certain lines that aren't healthy, you end up with a daughter who's in a lot of trouble. And it's not because she's a bad person, it's because she's doesn't understand the choices she's making, and you have to help her understand that as a parent.
Exactly.
That's your job.
And also, Pat, I think in the mix of that, also the peer pressure can make you go across some lines that you would never have done at that age, right? Just to be accepted.
Yeah, but that's where the parents come in, because you have to pay attention to your children's peers. I'm sorry, there's when my kids were growing up, they're like, hey, we want to go to so-and-so's house. And I'm like, no, no, absolutely not happening. Because that particular child has either behavior that I'm concerned about, or has parents I'm concerned about, or lack of parents that I'm concerned about. No, you don't get to do that. We'll include that child in maybe a group gathering or at my home where I can monitor. We'll try to be kind to the child, but no.
I agree. I wholeheartedly agree. But it's good also that to pay attention to all these things, also because we are reading so much about all these gruesome things, and it's our responsibility as parents, and we have to make sure that they have a safe haven. Yeah.
It's our job, regardless. It's simply our job. Once you bring them into the world or adopt them into our family, it's our job. And otherwise, we can't step away and go, I just want to be their friend. No, stop being their friend. Try to be their parent. You got lots of time to be a friend later on in life when they're not in jail. or dead. So,
Exactly.
Okay, now.
Yeah. By the way,
to talk about, right?
yeah. I'll just tell you one thing, because in 2007, in May 2007, I was in the Philippines. I was at my hotel room. I was watching Fox News, and guess what? That was exactly May the 3rd. That was the day the disappearance of Madeleine McCann.
Oh my God.
And that really got me into that case.
Oh,
and I'll tell you what, I went down the wrong path, because first I started getting into Richard G. Hall's analysis of Madeleine McCann. I think it was really good at the beginning, so I started thinking, well, this is a guy who's very evidence-driven.
Right.
But he went down so many different, really weird paths in the end that I didn't know what it was half truth. It was. I couldn't. Yeah. Let's just say it was a rabbit hole.
Let me comment on that. Let me comment on that, because I have been asked about that a lot by Richard Hall. Now, Richard Hall, the first video he did, I agree with you. I was like very impressed. He's very good at. He's a great presenter. He does a tremendous amount of research and puts everything in nice order. So the first video was actually extraordinarily good. And I supported the first video. I'm like, okay, because one thing I like is that I don't care if it's me or somebody else. If they present something, they don't even have to be a profiler. They can be a non-profiler. But if they're good at what they do, I'm okay with that. So I was like, okay, this is really well done. And I don't have the energy to do what he does. I hate editing, so you'll never see a freaking edited anything from me. And I don't do it. And so once in a while, somebody else does something where I show all the pictures and the videos, and I'm like, that is great, because I am not going to sit in front of my computer that long. I can't do it. So I appreciate people presenting something in a different way than myself. So Richard Hall. Then he did the second, the third, the fourth, and the rabbit holes were starting to be dug everywhere. And I'm like, what the heck happened here? And it turns out he does have a background in, things like very strange, paranormal things and alien stuff. And he does indeed like to go into the conspiracy of even the universe.
Exactly.
And unfortunately, then he brought that into the Madeleine McCann thing. And so what I started seeing was he was starting to make assumptions and link things that had no reason to be linked or even be brought up. And I spoke up against that, because he became extraordinarily popular, because a lot of people like to believe that rather than what I believe the evidence supports, which is an accident and a cover-up, that's what I think the evidence supports. Nothing more than that. Suddenly we have child sex rings, and the child just, it was 3 days. She actually died 3 days before she was reported missing, and they were carrying around
on a Sunday.
other children to fake people out. I'm like, what in the world are you talking about? And suddenly the government was involved in a huge child sex ring, and I'm like, what? So then I started saying, I think he's gone a bit off the edge here. And a lot of people are very upset because he presents so very well. It's extraordinary, got a great voice and everything. And so
this is such a great point, Pat, because actually, because when I started watching it, I was very impressed, and that's why I went further and further, and I like you, I started seeing things that he was investigating, with UFOs and moon landing and Mars rovers, and I thought at the time that he was as evidence driven by that as he was in the first Madeleine McCann film. So I actually went down that road and started believing, hey, there's no more rovers on Mars, hey, the moon landing is fake. But then I realized after a while, hey, this is not real evidence. This is sometimes it's even just made up, or the sources are questionable, and things like that. So I realized on both sides of the argument, just like, let's take for example the moon landing, there are good arguments, but if it's a historical fact, you have to have really good arguments to overturn that fact. And those arguments wasn't that good. So I will say it is a rabbit hole, because you are led there by good presenters, good communicators, and they are presenting. So it just made my this related to your show. This made me think, okay, I have to really scrutinize what we are looking at, and we have to go with solid evidence. So you're teaching us that in a profound way, instead of all these other, conspiracy theories, because there's 1,000 of them, and you can be led to believe anything. But you are just saying, hey, I cannot use that because, hey, that is not solid evidence. That is just a conjecture or whatever. Yeah, so that is really, really, I commend you for that. That is really good for me.
It's been a very frustrating thing for me, especially with the internet, to see how many cases are presented in a way which I'm like, there is absolutely zero evidence to support that. And it's not that sometimes, I mean, there are a lot of quirky things sometimes with cases, simply because evidence gets distorted, it gets lost, it's not found. So we do have these holes. We have holes in cases, but we don't want to make them rabbit holes. You know what I mean?
Exactly,
so
exactly.
we have them, and we have to sometimes acknowledge it's like, I really don't have an answer for that. I don't know. And in a police investigation, it's their job not to go down rabbit holes, but to look at the different issues and to rationally try to determine what is the best way forward to try to gain enough evidence to determine what happened and to actually arrest and prosecute somebody. Sometimes they can't find enough of it, and they just have to say, well, it's never going to happen because we can't prove something. But with the internet, people make a lot of money. There's a lot of grifters out there, and they're perfectly happy to present just about anything because they get tremendous amount of viewers, tremendous amount of people who are willing to just jump on board and be excited. They're actually, people get excited about a mystery, and they're excited about, if you just have 10 pieces of evidence, it's kind of boring. But if you can come up with 200 pieces of evidence and a whole bunch of shady people, behind trees and stuff, it's much more exciting. Which is why we have, for example, mysteries. I did a thing where I analyzed that Death on the Nile, Agatha Christie.
Yeah.
That has to be one of the stupidest mysteries I've ever read. And I didn't realize it was that bad, because I thought, I haven't read Agatha Christie in years. I actually had to look at the book along with the movies, and I'm like, this is ridiculous. Absolutely the worst. It just makes no sense at all. But if you do it correctly, if you actually commit a crime correctly, it's hard to write a book about it because oftentimes it's really boring and you only have 2 chapters. So you want something exotic. You want something completely like everybody could have done it, and there's all these odd things happen, and you're like, probably not. And that's okay in a mystery story where you already say, I can take my sense of reality and I can park that someplace and I can just do this for fun. I can have a good time. But when you do that with real cases and then you start going out into the real world and accusing people and all that kind of crap, then it gets a wee bit concerning. That I don't like. So
completely agree, and that's also why how did I end up with Pat Brown channel? Well, I have a subscription for that chapter. If you know that chapter, the true crime channel with Mike. He's very short, but he also have humor. It's very light. Right. He's also fair to the victim. I think he's doing it in a wonderful way because he's really just presenting it. Here's the story, and then he has some jokes. And I think he does a wonderful job. And then
the only thing I'm going to say, just because I like to be realistic about everything, I looked at his stuff, and actually I looked at his stuff before, but forgot who it was. He does present very well. Let me explain the difference between. There's 3 things here. There's a person who's telling a story. And we get some of our murder and makeup ladies who have like 1 million viewers, and I don't, because I don't do makeup. But they tell a really good story. They present the crime in a way that is very interesting to people, and they do very good editing. Again, I don't do that crap, so I give them credit. You're doing a good job presenting the story. You're fun to listen to. I'm jealous of you because you have 1 million subscribers, but I get it. It's like I don't do that, but you're pretty cool the way you do it. Okay, I don't have a problem. And he comes under that group. He presents very well. He does a lot of work editing and putting everything together. Does a great job.
Jokes.
And then he's funny too. He's got a sense of humor. So I do like him very much. So I'm with you on that. The only thing I want to point out, So he does that. He's telling a story. He's not one of the grifter channels. I call them grifter channels because they'll present a whole bunch of erroneous information and milk it for 20 shows on one case, 30 shows on one case, and they're just grifters. They make a lot of money and they have a lot of subscribers, but I call them grifters. Now, in the middle, and I want to point this out because this is the only thing I think is very important. So I looked at, for example, he did a show on Todd Kohlhepp, who was the serial killer in South Carolina, who also has confessed to the murders, Superbike murders in South Carolina. The four people shot down, a motorcycle shop. Now here's what happens. People who listen to channels, watch channels, who tell a story, have to know that a lot of times they're getting their information from the major media. And they do not know behind it what really happened. I did a thing on Todd Kohlhepp. If anybody wants to know, go there and look. Superbike murders. Todd Kohlhepp did not commit the Superbike murders, and I will stand by that. I will say that, and if anybody wants to sue me for it, I will stand behind it because I have the autopsy reports that prove he didn't do it. So, because I worked that case with the sheriff's department. I was there. Now, I know that. But he does not.
I remember the tickets.
Yeah, but I know that he does not. He listened to the show that left me out, and they stole my stuff and used it, but they left me out, and then they changed. So he's listening to, I forgot what show it was. Yeah, but that show was a pack of lies, and I told the woman, the host, she was full of crap, and she was a pack of lies, and they stole my stuff, and of course she didn't admit it. Yeah, but anyway. That show went out. That is considered the #1 show on the case, and he watched that show believing that the media was telling him the truth, and it was not. So he's doing his best based on what he knows. Same thing happened with Crime Junkies. You know, Crime Junkies was the most popular show ever. I listened to my daughter said, listen to Crime Junkies, they're really great, but don't listen to the Madeleine McCann case because you know too much. Because, you know, I've written a book on it. I've been in Portugal. I've been in Praia de Luz. I met Gonzalo. She says, don't watch that one. I said, okay, that's the very reason I'm going to watch it. And I watched it, and what did I find out? I found out that they got everything from the major media. They never read Gonzalo's book. They never read my book. They never read the police reports. So they just reported that she was abducted because that's what the major media said. And I'm like, so people watch that show or listen because it's a podcast. So they listen to Crime Junkies, and everybody who listens thinks that they told the proper story of Madeleine McCann. They did not. They're great. They're very good at their show. They normally present a good story, and as long as the story is, how can we say, not something that's questionable, you know, like it actually is that way, you know, then it's a good story. But some of these cases which have a lot of issues and aren't really truthful the way they're being presented, those presenters do not know the difference. You know, they do not know. They're not profilers. They're not detectives. They don't know what the truth is, so they just present it. So I just tell people, there's some of these people who present the stories, they do a really great job. Just to keep in mind, I'm not trying to down them for that because I don't know that they would have any way of knowing, you know what I mean? But understand that they're listening to the major media and they do not know maybe what's behind some of these things that they're not hearing. So just keep that, in the back of your head. Still enjoy their work because they do a lot of work putting together all the photos and the videos and that I won't do. So I often tell people to go watch some of those shows because, you know, I'm not going to do that. So watch the show and then listen to me. Thank you, guys. Well, but I agree with you. I think he presents very well.
And I really like the point you are bringing out because I wanted also to mention Stephanie Harlow, which is like a makeup and crime, but she does such a extensive shows and a lot of it is her personal opinion. But I think that she has respect of many people and she's easy to listen to.
I just think people have to know Stephanie Harlow and what's his name on the when
Mike.
Mike, is it?
Mike, yeah.
People need to understand that they're presenting, they're presenters, they're not profilers. They might give their opinion at the end. Don't take it seriously. It's just a personal opinion. I don't say that downs their show. It's just you have to understand that they're not coming from a place of analysis. They're just coming from a place of presentation. And I'm a regular Joe, and this is kind of what I think. But I do. Stephanie Harlow. I wish she'd come and do my makeup because I suck at it. If only I could do that. I mean,
there's also always perfect makeup and hair, glasses and all these things.
She does some gorgeous stuff. I'm like, I'm so jealous, but.
No. You have no reason to be jealous. You're so presentable, so elegant.
I'm looking where my braw's showing. It's like, look, I put a sticker thing on the frickin' thing, and it still doesn't work.
It's just a part of the charm, It shows you're a real human being, Don't be. Yeah.
I've just reached a point where I just give up on certain things. I'm like, it's just not happening. Well, there's the other side. Damn it, those stickers aren't working tonight. Dang. I should get different shirts, but I like these shirts because. I buy these shirts off of Amazon, like 12 colors, and try to throw different ones on for the show.
But Pat, that's one of the things I want to commend you for, because I was just going to say, these other true crime shows, they are all the same when it comes to the point, because they are all just in entertainment. They're just presented in a way that is meant to entertain us and to keep us like fascinated and guessing and but your show stands out on one of the things is you're not this perfect presenter and you have all these perfect slides. There's always something wrong. There's always a technical issue. There's always something
goes
makes
wrong.
it so much more but that is just like it makes it much more personal and down to earth, and it's like you're there in the same height. We're looking at each other in the eyes in that way instead of it's just somebody.
Right. I appreciate that, Benny. And it's funny because when I started doing the shows, I spent 15 years on television, did over 3,000 appearances on pretty much every major news channel in America, and I always got hair, makeup, limo, that kind of crap. And then I got a sound bite, and I never got to say what I wanted, But I looked, crap it, see? Okay, so I looked, I'm going to put on my sweater pretty soon. So I looked really good, saying absolutely hardly nothing sometimes, And when I started doing YouTube, I'm like, okay, I don't get any hair, I don't get any makeup, and I don't know what I'm doing technologically, but nobody can stop me. Nobody has a soundbite on me anymore. I can actually do a full analysis and do educational, and I guess it's called edutainment to some extent because I am not overly serious. But I can actually get together with people like you, Benny, and I have this great group of folks in the in the chat rooms and that are Patreon people, and I feel like I can actually connect as opposed to just sitting in front of talking to my host wherever the hell the host is, either on the couch next to me or somewhere else in New York, and I'm in Washington D.C. and I say my bit and then I go home, and it always felt disconnected because I couldn't really teach, which is what I wanted. So I'm really happy. I'm much happier on YouTube than I've ever been on television, and it's great because I can just do what I want to do.
Yeah.
So.
And the way you come across is much more genuine. That was the word I was looking for. It's like it's genuine, because when you watch the other shows, that it's really edited and the girl sitting there with glasses and makeup to the extent, and you think, what is this? Is this a fashion show? This is of course you are doing you have beautiful makeup and you present yourself in a good way, but that is not the most important thing.
Beautiful makeup we're talking about. Do it for 5 minutes and it doesn't work.
You do have lipstick, I think.
It's very pitiful. You're very kind, but no. Look at this. I got a hair of 10 colors, and I know things are going wrong. But I think there's a point in the world where we can have different options, and one doesn't have to pick one option over the other option. And I'm just providing one option, which is educational profiling, crime scene analysis. So one wants to learn more about the case and all the details and all that. Somebody just came forth, by the way, on the Missy Beavers case, which I've done. And a lot of people have some very interesting rabbit hole theories on that. And somebody just said, hey, you ought to listen to this guy. It's a 4-hour show. The guy put 600 hours into his analysis. And he's not a profiler.
Yeah.
I don't know who the hell the guy is. Not a profiler. So I'm like, okay, let's see what this crap is. And that's kind of my thought. Yeah. And then I looked down and went, dude's not bad. Wait a minute, this guy's, he's put a lot of time into this. It's 4 hours. He actually put facts. He actually analyzed really well. I'm like, okay then. So I ended up linking him to my show, and then I sent him a message and said, look, I just linked you because, quite frankly, you're really good at analyzing, and it's an excellent show. So he did something I'm not willing to do, which is called 600 hours.
Oh wow! Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
But a lot of people are obsessed with shows, and they do things, and they spend a lot of time, but they get nowhere that's worthwhile. He actually spent a lot of time getting stuff that made sense. So if you haven't seen, anybody hasn't seen Missy Bevers, go watch my Missy Bevers show, and then check the one out in the description that I say this guy. I just said there's 2 guys there. He says both of them are good, but the second one is the guy with the 600, and I think his name is. I'm going to get it wrong, so I'm not going to say it. I can't remember. But I was impressed. And he's not a profiler. He says, I don't like doing true crime. It's like, dude, you spent 600 hours and you analyzed well. I'm like, but I think it's good for people to see that. Absolutely.
I'll check that out.
So I'm impressed, and there's nothing wrong with more than one opinion. And to get things from a slightly different point of view, and I think that's important that we do that in every part of life. That we're open to learning, and we can learn without necessarily saying we agree. We can still learn.
And I can do that now because I can tell you, I can feed something into you that is called the Japanese toilet case.
The Japanese toilet case. I knew that was coming. I was waiting for Benny and the Jap. I've got some new things on that too, by the way. The Japanese toilet.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. What do you got? Okay. Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
I'll just run down the evidence short, and then I'll present the model, and then.
Okay. Are you going to explain the basic case to the people watching?
Yeah.
Okay. Then I won't do it. I'm going to let you give the basics on the Japanese toilet case, which happened 30 years ago, and has a name. The guy's name is I have hard time pronouncing it. And it comes in as 2 different kinds of names, but anyway.
Let's call him Connor.
Yes, I did a show on that case. Everybody's wondering. One of my Friday night Oceania Asia shows, I did the thing on the man under the toilet. He's under a squat toilet, died under there, and it is one of the most bizarre cases I've ever run across, and I can't say I came to a proper conclusion on it. And so I gave my thoughts on the case, and then Benny had some extra thoughts, and Benny and I had some discussions, and then Benny said, I want to talk some more about this, and so here is Benny. Benny's going to present, I guess you're going to present basically what the case is. And I'm curious because I got some new ideas too, because this is so weird. So, Benny, go ahead. The floor is yours.
Yeah. First of all, this young man, 26 years of age, he was found crammed in a very tight place and underneath in the pipes of a squat toilet.
Hold on, wait 1 second. Okay, just so the people know. I'm trying to do this with my hand because we're not doing photos on here. Okay, so up here is the toilets. This is like it's a squat toilet they've used in Japan at the time. And then there's this thing that comes around. Okay, I'm going to do it on this hand. So I'm going to go on one side. This way. Wait a minute. No, this way. I can't do it. Okay, this way. So anyway, she's on there's a squat toilet, and then there's a pipe that comes down here, and it goes this way, and then it goes up this way.
Yeah.
So it's like this, like a big U, and he's down here. The squat toilet's over here. His head is underneath the toilet, and then his feet are like at this end, and then there's the pipe that goes up from. So I'm just gonna. I have a picture of that somewhere. Wait a minute. Hold on 1 second. Do I still have a picture of that somewhere? Because this is very annoying not to be able to show them that. Hold on 1 second.
Yeah.
See if I can find it. Hold on. I might be able to find it. I might not have removed it yet.
And we can give some info. Also, it was in February,
yes,
24th of February, that this teacher went for for a holiday.
Correct.
So yeah, so it was cold in Japan. There was even snow at the time. So that is also something to
trying to pull this.
take
Hold on
into.
1 second. Body under toilet. Okay, I'm trying to pull this up so that people can see this because it's worth seeing. Oh, here we go. I put that.
And also,
that wasn't what I intended to do.
The cause of death was hypothermia, and he was he died on the 26th. And the teacher, whose toilet it belonged to in the dormitory, she returned from holiday on the 28th.
Okay,
so she was away from the 24th to 28th.
Hold on 1 second. Yeah. This is the picture, guys. So this is what Benny's talking about. The squat toilet is there. She's facing that hoodie thing. And then he's down at the bottom of this place. That's supposedly a coat clutched in his arms. He's supposedly wearing pants, but no shirt. There's supposedly a shoe floating around above his head. And then the other side that is coming out, where it says 36 centimeters, is where they open up the top there. They'll take a cover off, and then they will suck out all the crap, essentially, out of the toilet.
The waste.
I don't know what else to call it. And then they'll put the cover back on, and it goes on that. Now let me show them the timeline for it, so they can get that clearly. Let me find out where my timeline is. What the hell is my timeline? Okay, I think it's this. Where is it? Come on now. Okay, there we go. This is the timeline. 24th, the teacher went on leave. That is the day that he is suspected of ending up under the toilet. She returns on the 28th, but he dies in between on the 26th. That's basically it. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, and the cause of death was hypothermia.
Correct.
So what do we have as evidence? Well, we have a parked car in the vicinity of the dormitory. The car keys were inside the ignition. The doors for the car was unlocked. There was one shoe in the field somewhere close to some water. Some not very distant from
it was on the other side of the vehicle, though, farther away from the vehicle, toward a river and a field somewhere, and not between the car, not around the car, and not between the car and the dormitory, just a short distance, but way out in a field, somewhere for reasons we don't know. Okay, go ahead.
And as you said, there was one shoe in the toilet, and there was one man in the toilet. There was one wrapped coat by his chest.
One man in the toilet.
So these are the evidence, and we have some missing pieces. You know, the socks and the shirt, and we don't know anything about that.
Oh, so that's a good point. Okay. Hold on. Let's go. Let's say something about that. Now, understand that what Benny and I are both dealing with, and everybody else, is that the information on this case is a little sketchy. And I don't know. Somebody asked me about that on YouTube, and they started posing some really great questions. And I said, I'm going to be on the show with Betty tonight. Let's see if we can answer them. One problem here is that it's a 30-year-old case, and there's only so much information. And when I say so much, I'm like this much, not this much information on the internet. Sometimes they put pictures in that have nothing to do with the case, just because they wanted a picture of for example, a shoe, and it's not the shoe; it's just a shoe. It's like, was a shoe that he was wearing, was it a loafer, or was it a tie shoe? Because that could be a big difference. Because if you have a tie shoe, maybe that means something compared to a loafer. But we don't know, because they put a shoe up that they saw at the shoe store down the street, or on the net, so on Amazon. It's an Amazon shoe. So we don't know if that's a shoe. We don't even know what the toilet looks like, by the way. Somebody asked me about what kind of toilet, how do they flush it? And I'm like, I don't know. I searched for what kind of squat toilet this was. Let me put the picture back in here again. That's a squat toilet. She is facing the correct direction. Sometimes when people come to countries with squat toilets, they face the wrong direction, which they put the butt on that other end, and they face the door. Yeah. This is correct. But usually the hole, this is another weird thing, the hole, actually, you see where that hood of the toilet is? That's usually where the hole is, not where her butt is. Yeah. I don't understand this picture at all. No. I've been in India. I've been in China. I've been in Mongolia. The hole is usually toward the front. I don't understand why. See where they're saying 20 centimeters? Like he's looking up at her butt? I don't understand this. Maybe, but the problem is, I don't understand what toilet we have here. Because one of the things they said was see that the right side is theoretically inside her room, like it's her toilet, and on the outside is outside the toilet, outside the dormitory, right?
Yeah.
But some others say, it was an outside toilet. So if it were an outside toilet, then it would be like an outhouse thingy. And outhouses have really crappy toilets as opposed to inside toilets, which might be nicer. So the question is, where the hole was in this toilet, first of all. Secondly, how did the water go down? In other words, was it a flush toilet? Because some of them have a flush, but some of them don't have a flush. And you use a bucket of water and you shove it, you just pour it in there, or you don't do anything and you wait for somebody to clean up your toilet. Those are the choices. But I don't know what the toilet looked like, and it drives me nuts because she supposedly looked down this hole and saw a shoe floating around, and I'm like, first of all, how did she see the shoe? How big? Where was the hole that she would see this? And then the woman who was on YouTube asked this question, Benny: how much water was in that damn toilet, the pipe part? Because she left on. Okay, let's look at this. Maybe you can help me with this. So the 24th, she went on leave. All right. Yep. This is supposedly when he ended up under the toilet. She was gone for the 24th, the 25th, the 26th, the 27th. So no one was flushing the toilet. It was a private toilet. So why would there be? First of all, maybe on the 24th they hadn't come to clean the toilet, so there would be a lot of water in it, so a shoe could float. But then you have to ask yourself, why the hell would he get into a toilet with water that was a lot of water when he'd have to go into the water, because it looks more like he was in there, lying on his back, holding his coat to prevent hypothermia, and there wasn't enough water in there for him to be bothered. But why would she come home and see water in there if no one has used the toilet, right? It's been 5 days. Okay, I'm going to stop there, Benny. You go ahead. I just thought these things were interesting.
Yes, and that also shows us there's a lot of things we don't know.
Correct. Wait. One more thing. We are only getting what we're getting in English on the internet. Half of that stuff is crap. And I keep saying that with a story, so it's just unfortunate. But there was an interesting Japanese show, which one of the internet sites showed portions of, which was really cool, like a reenactment. But I couldn't access the real Japanese show. I tried to go, on the internet, and I went over to put myself in as Tokyo, where you hide yourself, and I accessed Tokyo, and I still couldn't come up with anything, probably because I can't write in Japanese. But I don't know whether the show exists anymore. I don't know whether even the police reports from 30 years ago exist anymore. I don't know whether they did such a poor job, they just said, okay, this dude, whatever, and just canceled the case and never did a proper investigation. So we are missing probably the original police reports, and probably even better stuff from Japan. We're getting what's left over on the internet, and they tried, but we're kind of mucking around with nothing to absolute. So we're like, I don't really know. So that's where we are, and that's why when we try to analyze this case, some cases you can't come to a really great conclusion because you're not sure about the evidence. So when I did the show, it was because it was so unusual and so unique and so fascinating, but consequently, I am not actually sure. But Benny I came to a sort of a conclusion. Benny is coming to some other stuff. Okay, I'm going to shut up, Benny. I'm going to let you go now. I'm sorry, I just wanted to bring people up to date.
Let's just say that the hypothermia theory has gone down the drain.
Why?
Pun intended. Because the more I think about it, the more improbable it is. No, I mixed your explanation with another explanation. Wait a minute,
Benny, because actually, I want to point out Benny had a very reasonable analysis, which when we look at different possibilities, there's nothing wrong with looking at different possibilities. And he did die of hypothermia. So Benny, you brought up the point that when people get hypothermic, and it was January, we don't know what the heck this dude was doing. I mean, he left it kind of midday from his home. We don't know why he went over toward the dormitory. We don't know what he did before he got to the dormitory. We don't know if he was crazy. There's no evidence that he was crazy or had psychotic breaks. But when people get hypothermia, what you pointed out, Benny, was that they can do a thing called paradoxical undressing. In other words, they get so cold, they feel hot, and they start ripping all their clothes off, and they act really weird. And then you talked about a very interesting thing called burrowing, which is also true. Let's say and this happens usually in the woods, like some guy goes hunting, and things go wrong, and he starts becoming hypothermic, and he starts ripping all his clothes off, and he gets naked, which makes people think that, especially if it's a woman, that somebody attacked her. And then he gets to this point where he wants to somehow find. It's confusing about when the burrowing happens, but the concept is that at some point they're trying to actually get some kind of heat. They're trying to get in a place where they feel they're protected, and so they burrow into things like bushes, sometimes leaves, sometimes underneath a tree, like a fallen tree. They try to burrow under there. They try to burrow like a rodent, essentially, trying to protect themselves in whatever way they think it works. So here we have a guy that, for unknown reasons, is missing his shoes, his socks, his shirt, and is in a toilet, underneath a toilet. Why? Could he? And it is cold out there. So did he become hypothermic at some point, start running around like a maniac, start ripping things off, and then decide, oh, look, here's a place I can burrow into, maybe get some warmth. I don't think it was it was a reasonable avenue of investigation and analysis to take.
But still, there are two things that made me leave that theory. And the one thing was because when I look at the map, the dormitory is actually a little farther away from his home. So why would he? In case he has the sanity to think, why would he not reason to get home instead of going to her place? And that is the one thing. And the other thing is, why would he go for that tight place? Because the pictures I saw is that the pipe is in the ground, right? You have to remove the lid. So there would be so many other possibilities. And how was he able to drive his car in that state of mind?
Oh,
I think,
good.
So I think, well, it doesn't really match that. So I thought of something else.
Okay, wait a minute. I just want to stop and point out this really great thought you had. That if he had gotten hypothermic, well, maybe down by the river, wherever this river was, because we don't know where the hell the river was, we don't. But a shoe was found near a river somewhere on the other side of the dormitory and his car. So let's say he fell into the river for whatever reasons. And the only reason I found that unlikely is because sometimes college students get drunk as crap, and then they go to pee in the river, and then they fall into the river, and they end up drowned in the river. That happens. It does. Sometimes people fall in rivers for all kinds of reasons, and they get hypothermic. But in this case, it was midday that he went missing, and it's like, what would he be doing midday, falling into a river? And why wouldn't he then get in his car and drive home? Because there's no reason to believe his car wasn't functional. And also, if he did drive over to the dorm, he still had his car to stay in to keep warm, unless it completely died. Even then, it's still a better place to keep warm in than basically a sewer. And also, there was a building there, and admittedly, supposedly, a lot of people were away from the dormitory on vacation. But if I'm freezing to death, I'm gonna smash a window in. I'm gonna get in there, and I'm gonna hide in. I'm gonna get inside the building. So there seemed to be too many reasons to be elsewhere than to crawl down a pipe. So I agree with you. I think that although he could have become hypothermic, there isn't really, when you kind of go through it all, that I can't come up with anything really.
That was what you call it. It's possible, but it's not
probable. Correct. Very good. Yes. Okay, we're gonna move that aside.
So no here comes the Yeah, so this is the scenario, and of course some of it has to be made up because I don't know. I only have what we have as evidence. But let's say he leaves his home at circa noon on the 24th to run some errands.
Okay.
We know that. Possibly, maybe he does run some errands first, but at some time he decides to go to the teacher's place, and I think he arrives there before she takes off because there must be a reason why he's there. Maybe he wants to tell her something. She needs to give him a message or something. There's just a brief meeting because the car is unlocked, the keys are in the ignition, and if you do that, it's just for a brief moment. You would never do that if it was for if you wanted to stay. So he knows she's about to go.
And
so he goes there for.
Wait! I'm sorry. I have to point. I like this because a lot of people say, well, she wasn't there. Well, she left on that day. They didn't say when she left on that day. She could have left at 3 in the afternoon or 6 in the afternoon. So there's no reason why, if he went there, he had a mission of some sort, and likely he thought she was there. Now, theoretically, she could have left already, but also theoretically, she could still be there, just like you said.
Yeah. So let's assume that she is there, and she's about to go. Maybe she is already outside the dormitory. So she tells him, because they are not romantically involved, but perhaps he thinks that she is the girl for him, whatever. But she tells him.
She does have a boyfriend. She does have a boyfriend, and
she does,
all three of them get along.
So maybe she's not interested in him, but he's there. So he, for we don't know. But she says just, gosh, I dropped my ring in the toilet, as somebody assumed, right?
Right.
But she already closed the door and she's on her way to the bus. So he says goodbye to her and waves to her, and then he gets into the car again, and then he thinks, I want to impress this girl. You know what? I'm going to retrieve her ring.
Okay.
So I'll surprise her when she gets back. So that's why she doesn't know anything about this. So he goes back and he takes off his coat because he cannot fit in there with his coat, and he thinks that if he fold his coat. My wife said this, so this is her idea. She said, if it was me, I would fold my jacket, I would put it in front of me as I go head down into the pipe because I want to protect my hands. If I hit something hard, I want to use that to squish me in like a cushion.
Right.
So he gets in there with the jacket, but then he realized when he's down there, there's a lot of waste here because it's dark, he couldn't really see it, but then he realized there's a lot of waste here.
Okay.
And then he also realized he cannot get up again. So he's wiggling his feet just to what can I do? Can I push myself up? But he cannot because if you look at the picture, so he's thinking, what can I do?
Okay,
and
let me show the people the picture again just so they can see it, because it's hard to even fathom. But okay, so go ahead. They don't need to see me. Let them look at the picture for a minute.
Yeah, so as he realized, I cannot push myself up, he's losing strength in his arm, and he's coming more and more down with his body. And in that process, one of his shoes is falling off into the pipe, and one of his shoes is falling off outside the pipe. Okay. So he thinks, just like anybody would think, okay, I can squeeze myself down into the pipe where he's lying there, and then he can turn around and go up head first to come up of that.
Right.
Okay, so he hands down there with one shoe and with the jacket, and he puts it on his chest to keep warm, and he's thinking, what am I gonna do now? Okay, so the other shoe, like somebody suggested, a stray dog comes and plays with it, and that's why it's left a little
way
bit
away. Quite a long way, but as far as I know, but I may not know much.
Yeah. But it could also be a stray dog, playing with it and running around it. So I have no explanation for that shoe except that. Okay, so but here's I have some more. He's trapped there, with a jacket wrapped, and we have the car parked with unlocked doors and the keys inside, because he thought he could retrieve that ring within minutes. And then surprise when she gets back. That is also why the lid is removed from the pipe, because as far as I understand, the lid was removed. It wasn't back on, because if it was back on, there was no way he could do it alone.
That is correct.
Yeah. So these are the facts. But then we have when the teacher returns on the 28th, she walks into the bathroom. She doesn't know he's down there, right? So she sees the shoes. Again, we don't know what the water. Yeah, she sees the shoes and she said, "What the?"
Wait a minute, Benny.
Yep.
Just came to something I thought about.
No.
Because I haven't thought about it before, which is why I love group ideas. Because one of the questions is if she's, I still have trouble how she saw the damn shoe, but okay.
Yeah.
Let's say she saw the shoe, and she's been away, and there shouldn't be that much water in the toilet. But if the cover was left off, we do not know the weather conditions. Whether, it was supposedly snowing. It's possible that the snow could then turn into water inside. Comes down that. Well, let's look again on the left side here. The outside part, theoretically, there could be runoff. Let's say there was a lot of snow around it and it started warming up, then the snow starts melting. All that water could go down that pipe, which then would add water to the bottom. Or it could have rained if it was like, I'm in Maryland, so like we have times when it's like, oh, it's going to snow tonight, and then it's like a degree too warm and it rains like a son of a gun, and then we just have a lot of crappy rain. So it's possible that there was runoff on snow warming up, or there was rain that could have actually raised the level of the water without it having anything to do with urine, because that's the or anybody flushing a toilet, because there was nobody around. So if she wasn't around, nobody's flushing a toilet. But it could be, if you left the cover off, it could be runoff or rain. So cool.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I like it. Yeah.
So and there's a few other things also, because when she sees the shoe, of course she's shocked by that, and she goes outside and then she sees the foot, and then she alarms the authorities. And I like that scenario because that means she doesn't know he's down there until that moment.
Correct.
Okay, she's not involved, and she doesn't even know why he's there, because she would never think he's probably down there finding my ring.
Right.
Of course, you wouldn't reason that out. Okay, so the problem is if there were two guys, if you had an assistant.
Okay, let's say show people. Okay, wait a minute, hold on a second. Let me show people what the other possibility is. Okay, because the other concept is he had somebody holding his legs, which let's see if I can find that darn thing. Where is it? Hold on a second. It's hard to find. Here we go. I have to bring it up. This is not on my. There we go. So the left side is he's managing to put his own self down, and the right side is somebody holding on to him and saying, "Okay, I'm going to hold your legs." Like he's like, I'm going down this toilet, and it's not real super deep. So theoretically, his legs should still stick out to some extent. Okay. There's actually. Let's see if I can find the other picture. Of how far. This is the one that was done by the Japanese channel, which I can't access and don't know everything about it. Is this it? Hold on a second, let me see if this is it. So people can sort of get an idea what you're talking about. Okay, how about that? No, stop doing that. Okay, hold on a second. There we go. Okay, so theoretically, he's coming down like this. So he might have his feet still sticking out the top to some extent. I don't think quite as much as the one on the left. But his head is now down there. So the theory is, whether it's true or not, the theory is that rather than going straight down himself and not knowing how he's going to get the hell out of there, because it's very tight. And this is where I have a problem with the one-person theory. Because as you pointed out, Benny, it may be possible that he thought that he could go headfirst in, somehow get underneath like this, and then make a U-turn and get himself back out on the left side. But it was very narrow, and so the question is, did he think that, or did he say to somebody, I'm going to go down here, hold on to me, and I'm going to let me get down here, I can try to see whatever I'm getting out of here, whatever I'm doing, and then you can pull me back out. That's kind of the question, and so go ahead, what you're thinking now. I just want to show people the pictures.
Yes, and there are like two scenarios I want to bring up with that. Okay. Let's say she helped him. Okay. Let's say she did, and I find that unreasonable, because if she helped him, but she panics,
Right.
and she did not go for help. Okay, why would she alarm the authorities when she come back? Because she could not be sure he was dead, and if he was not dead, he would tell the authorities, "You were supposed to help me." Then she
Well,
would be in big trouble,
well,
right?
she would know he's
Because he
dead
did
by
not
then,
die.
so he's not going to tell anybody anything. But you know.
But did she? Because he did not die until the 26th. Maybe he was in a coma. Maybe he was
Oh no,
unconscious or
no.
stuff.
If he went in, okay. Let's look at. No, I have an issue with that. Okay, so he went in. He went in on the 24th. She returned on
Yeah.
the 28th. If that dude has been in there for 4 days, I'm going to guarantee he's dead. Now,
But
did she know that?
I
Is what
agree.
you're pointing out.
Yet, yeah, that's what I say. Was she absolutely sure? Because he could have been, passed out or in a.
Right.
She had to be absolutely sure, because if she panicked on that day on the 24th, why would she feel comfortable alerting the authorities on the 28th if she was involved? If it was because she panicked, if she had knowledge he was
Right.
down there,
Why did
it
she
doesn't
just
really make sense
leave
to
well
me.
enough alone, is what you're saying.
Exactly, and why didn't she put the lid on? Why didn't she remove the car? I think that she would have removed the evidence at that stage.
Well,
right?
wait. Remove what evidence?
Yeah, the car would trace
The
him
car
to
was
that
probably
to that
dead.
place.
I mean, she may not have been
Yeah.
able to remove the car. And that takes some doing. And people don't, See, this is where it's such a weird case. So yes, this is so tricky because, okay, let me point out something I have issues with. Now,
Yeah.
this is where we don't know certain things. I also thought about the concept of her losing a ring, because he might well have been able to access her. He might have been gone into her home, because there's a dormitory. He goes in and hangs out with her for a while on that date, right? They're chit chatting. She goes to the bathroom, and she loses her ring in the toilet. And she says, "Oh crap! I lost my ring in the toilet. Can you help me?" And he's like, "Man, I can't get to it from this side." So he goes outside and says, "Maybe if I move the cover, I can do something about this." Here's the issue.
Yeah.
They never found anything in that toilet.
Yeah.
No ring. I'm going to say this. I would think if she lost a ring in the toilet, first of all, she's a student. I'm going to say that ring probably isn't like worth a whole hell of a lot. So, you know what I mean? Like a costume jewelry ring. She would have to have literally lost an engagement ring, which there's no proof she was ever engaged. She had a boyfriend, but there was no saying that she was engaged. Or some family heirloom that she lost in the toilet. Now, one of the things about these, let me show people this toilet again. One thing they tell you about this toilet is people lose shit out of their pockets because they pull their pants down and their wallet falls in, their money falls in, their car keys fall in, which is why I always thought the car key issue was a possibility. Those are the things that generally fall down the toilet. And I'm still I still don't understand where the hole in the toilet is, and it drives me crazy. Because I say I've been on a lot of squat toilets in my life, and I know better than lose things in the toilet. But usually they're forward and not backward. So in other words, they shouldn't be falling in the toilet. But can happen. They say it can happen. So let's say if he lost his car keys down there, then here's a scenario. Let's say, oh my God, my car keys fell in. He goes around outside and he goes down to get his car keys and somehow hands them up. And I don't know that he can do that. If he's got like when he's on his head. Let's look where he's on his head. So he's on his head. Can he get car keys and pass them back up, or is that absolutely impossible? Which it kind of looks impossible. And let's say say she dropped her ring, and he's going to look for her ring. They should have, when they excavated this thing, because they had to break it up to get him out of there. They should have found whatever was in the toilet with him. Answer to that is they never found anything. His car keys were in his car. They never found a ring. They never found a wallet. They didn't find anything. Now, could somebody have stolen it? Possibly. Because these are the things that happen on crime scenes which aren't supposed to happen but do. Like they're excavating it, and let's say it's a family heirloom, and some dude is excavating and goes, "Damn, that's nice. I'm not turning that in. I could sell this for a whole bunch of money." And he might have just what you call disturbed the crime scene, removed evidence that then makes it so we don't understand what happened. So that could have happened. But what I would like to know is, theoretically, if she were a good human being, and on the, what date is it we got here again? Let's go back to our date. On the 24th, she's about to leave, and she drops her ring down the toilet, and she says, oh my God. He goes, don't worry about it, I'll try to get it for you. All right, that's reasonable. She says, oh, thank you so much. I don't know how you're going to do it, dude. You know. She returns on the 28th, and she sees a shoe.
But my point is, she doesn't actually know that he's going to do it, because she just gives him the information. Oh, I lost my ring, and he doesn't say anything about that. But after she leaves, he figured, well, you know, I'm going to be the knight in shining armor.
Here's my question, though. She comes back. She sees something amiss. She goes out and finds, oh my God, there's something wrong. She finds out that her friend is underneath the toilet, and she says she would then tell the police, oh my God, I told them I lost this expensive ring in the toilet. That apparently was never told to the police. There's my problem. No. Because the police said that he was peeping on her butt. You know what I mean? They said he was under the toilet. He goes on a winter day, he goes into a dirty toilet so he can look up at her butt, even though theoretically she's not even home. It's a stupid
and I don't believe that.
I don't believe it either.
And I agree with you. That is the problem with the theory, is that she would know if she had given him information that she lost something of valuable in. She would know why he was there.
Absolutely.
And that is also the problem with the theory. Otherwise, it would be something that she had said that he thought was important, and she thought it wasn't important, but he maybe. But then we're guessing and guessing.
But then why wouldn't she say that to the police when they're investigating? She goes, oh my God, you know, my friend, I left, you know, my friend, he was here at 1 o'clock, and we had this discussion, and I left, and I'm like, you know, whatever, and I can't believe how he ended up there. Why would he, you know, I might have mentioned that I dropped something in the toilet, but Jesus, would he really go down in the toilet and look for it? I mean, she would never expect that. She would tell the police that in a heartbeat. But the other problem I have is, the biggest problem I have with this case is this. Because generally speaking, if we look at how this looks, right? Most rational people would not think they had a chance of then getting back out with that narrow a tunnel essentially going in. Most rational people would not think they could get back out, because they have to push, you know, he's got to push himself back up, and you can't push yourself back up a tunnel. So it makes a lot more sense that he said to somebody, hold on to my legs, I'm going to lower me in, I'm going to try to get whatever the hell he's going to try to get, her ring, his keys, whatever, and then pull me out. But then the person couldn't pull him back out. Of course, the question comes down to is, what kind of crappy friend do you have here? You know, he just said, okay, I'm going to run off now. One of the theories I've had is that it is possible that once he tried to, the guy couldn't get him out, okay? The guy couldn't get him out, and he ended up crawling, because he's trying to turn around now. So he gets down there, and he cannot turn around. That's why I believe it's possible that as he was trying to pull himself through, that one of the shoes dropped into the toilet, which would make sense, and one dropped outside. And then the thing about the coat, because, you know, talking about dropping the coat down first. Maybe, or maybe, my theory was that he said, I'm so cold down here, drop me my coat, and so I can at least cover up for a little bit. Either one is reasonable. I don't have a problem with either one, but the other shoe would end up outside, like you pointed out. It would end up on the outside. So then the question comes, if somebody was helping him, and then he gets stuck in there, why wouldn't they immediately run to the police and say, my God, my friend wanted to crawl in here to get whatever, get out of the place, and he's stuck in there, and come and save his life? Instead, his shoe ends up being thrown, in my opinion. I don't believe, I have the dog thing. Well, you know, that's one of those things where we try to come up with an explanation. Was there a dog? I mean, it could happen. It could. It's not impossible. So the question is, did a dog really just pick it up and run off with it? Or did somebody then get the shoe and say, oh my God, I'm going to get rid of it? But then you wonder why they wouldn't put the cover back on.
Yeah, because then they would hide the traces. But also, I think the problem also, I know you have probably also thought about this, but the problem I had, let's say I'm the one helping him,
Okay.
and he gets stuck down there, and I want to get away because I'm thinking, this has gone wrong. I don't want to have anything to do with it. Let me run away.
Okay.
I would think that the minute after I run away, I would think, well, let's say he screams for help and somebody hears that, and and
I
and, and
think
they
the
help him,
area
right?
was deserted and screaming from inside a pipe probably not going to work real well.
But still, there's a chance that he would be hurt.
True.
And I'm thinking, would I run that risk? And I'm thinking, ooh, because somebody could come home to the dormitory also. I wouldn't know that.
Well, this was a huge holiday, so everybody had left. So I think I personally believe he knew that. And as far as how people react to things, when people panic, they do a lot of really dumb crap. They do. They just do stupid things. We think, oh, that's not sensible, but they're so panicked that they just do dumb things. So that's a possibility. Now the other theory could be that she did help him outside, and then he said, "Hold my legs," and not realizing that, quite frankly, she probably didn't have the strength to hold his legs, but he thought she did because I don't know why he would think that. But anyway, let's say she was actually there, and it all went wrong, and she's like, "Oh my God, I'm going to be accused of doing something terrible," so she runs away.
Yeah.
She comes home on vacation. She's like, he's been there for 4 days. And now I feel guilty. Now I'm going to call the police, but I'm not going to tell them what I did. Maybe she called down to him, got no answer. She figured he was dead. I don't know.
But that would also explain why she loosed down the toilet in the first place. Because she's checking her. Yeah.
That could be because the question of why, the shoe issue. Again, we don't know what the toilet looked like and where the hole was in the toilet. As I pointed out, we also would need to know what the weather was like. How much snow had there been? Could there be runoff into that open the pipe? Was there rain? If there was a huge rainstorm, it would fill up because it was open. In that case, the shoe would indeed float above his head in that location. The question is, how big is the hole? I mean, she could have looked in the hole and said, "Oh my God, there is a shoe there." I mean, that would freak you out. That would freak me out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In which case, she does understand how the toilet works. And I can see she might run around outside. And since she's not removing the cover, looking down is not unreasonable. And then she sees a foot and she calls the police. I don't find her behavior in those circumstances particularly unusual. No. Unless she already knew what happened and she came back and she saw, oh my God, I could see his shoe. Oh crap. And she runs around and says, I can see his foot. I just have, and she feels guilt and she calls the police and pretends she had nothing to do with it because she was gone. I was gone the whole time. I don't know what happened to him. I was gone.
So either scenario works, but I think yours are more probably. But I just think
I don't have one, Benny. I don't really have one.
No, but with the help of an assistant. But again, that would explain also why the shoe is thrown because he panics and he throws
unless
away
that
the
dog
shoe
came along. And here's the problem.
Yeah.
The dog is more improbable. But can it happen?
Yeah.
It can happen.
Of course it can.
That's the thing. It's one of these things where your whole crime scene gets screwed up because of weather, because of animals, because of anything. I say she could have dropped that darn ring and some dude stole it, and she lied about it because she didn't want to admit it. So we have a problem with so many of the issues. Now, I want to point out, as happens in many cases, if I had access to the police files, when they weren't in Japanese. Okay, so when I do U.S. cases, and I access, or even the Madeleine McCann case where they translated it into English, I was able to read the original police reports, the original autopsy, the original evidence reports. When you get, and the original interviews, I would be able to look at her interview and see whether I thought she was lying or whether she was coming across as truthful. Her friend, the boyfriend, I would look at his and see what I thought about his. I would review all the interviews with his father and the people in town and say, do any of these make any sense? Then I would look at the evidence reports and see whether I saw anything amiss with those. There's so much information I cannot access. So therefore, as I pointed out when I did this show, I said it's a fascinating case because you don't see this very often or ever. I've never seen a body under a spot toilet ever in my life. I mean, it's so weird. I did believe that.
That is really weird.
Yeah, and the concept that the police thought that he was peeping on her, doing her bodily functions. Oh, somebody brought this up. I'm like, oh, this was a funny one. Somebody brought up that they thought that the teacher was helping him get on with his paraphilia. In other words, she said, okay, you crawl into the thing and I'll go squat over the toilet so you can get your kicks. So the teacher was in on helping him get sexually excited. I'm like, if she was so willing to do that, here's the easier way. Invite him into your bathroom and perform in front of him. You don't need to make him go underneath the toilet, for God's sakes. You can do all kinds of performances right in front of his little face, and you don't have to kill him doing it. So I'm like, that is silly. So, but the police actually closed his case down by saying he was in there to look up on her bottom. And I'm like, this is the stupidest conclusion I've ever come to, which is one reason I did this case, because I thought that was, I don't know whether they just came to that because they couldn't come up with anything else, they just gave up, you know, like, okay, yeah, he's a pervert. But the poor guy and his poor family, it's like, that's what you're saying, he's a pervert, he's like spying on her. I'm like, you know, there's a million ways to spy on a woman. Yeah, put a hole, you know, in the wall. You don't crawl under toilets. You know? I felt bad for the dude. So I did the case because I thought it was fascinating. And I thought it was, I wanted to take away what I thought was ridiculous stuff, which was peeping on her, and at least come closer with some concept of what could have happened. Although, Benny, I honestly don't know. It's one of the weirder cases, and maybe if we had all the information, we'd both go, yeah, of course. But we don't have the information, so you know, take up Japanese, Benny. Go to Japan. Read the original police reports. Report back.
But like I told you the other day, you know, I think we will never, ever find out the truth, except if some witness come forward.
Right.
No. But it's funny because now we talk about that pedophilia, that maybe that was one theory, and if I don't know if you plan on shutting down the call in now, but I have more to discuss if you like.
Sure, go ahead.
if you okay. So I'm just gonna touch a bit on Ted Bundy, because if you seek out information on Ted Bundy, because there's so much on him, because he's like, you know, the archetype of the serial killer, and everybody wants to, you know, write about him because he's so fascinating and like that, all that. But then you Google him and you get all different kinds of info on him, like his IQ is 136, which is the top 2 of the world, and another one has his IQ as 125, which is like okay, or slightly above average, and he's not really that smart, right?
He's
because
just a regular
didn't.
A regular guy.
Yeah, and he didn't.
IQ.
Actually, and he got caught in 1975, and the police charged Bundy for the kidnapping of Carol DeRose, and they also suspected him for involvement in murders and disappearance across all the states. So he was caught. He was actually, they didn't have enough evidence to charge him, so he wasn't that bright. He wasn't even that charming, and that is what I want to discuss maybe just a little bit. He wasn't that charming because, you know, you remember the he was creepy. The first killing, you know, the 2 girls at that lake.
Sammamish, like Sammamish.
Yeah, I cannot pronounce that.
I can't either,
but
actually. I'm just making that up and I'm hoping I'm right.
Yeah, I think you're right. Sounds right. But he lured them, you know, he played a person in need. He needed them to help him. I think it was a surfboard he needed to get on his car, right? So it wasn't his charms. It was, he played on people's natural instinct to want to help a person in need. So he must have looked.
He was wearing a cast. He supposedly had a broken arm and he needed help. And let me tell you, what the smart thing he did, which doesn't require to be any kind of genius, is that he knows that young girls are easily conned, and that they feel guilty if they don't help you. And like if somebody says to you, let me take your groceries into your house. And you go, oh no, I don't need help. What? you're not willing to take help from me. You think I'm like a creepy guy or something? And the girl goes, oh, I don't want him to think that. So she says, okay. And then he goes in the house and kills her. It works like that. So he knows that young women are very vulnerable, very naive, and very willing to do what they're asked to do because they want to be nice people. A lot of women really want to be nice people. And I've told this story before, but I'll tell it again just because it's funny. So I had a friend, and we went to a restaurant once. It was kind of a restaurant bar. So we were sitting at a table by ourselves, and this dude comes up and sits down with us, and he starts talking. And he starts asking my friend, like, hey, honey, blah, blah, blah. And she's just talking with him. And then he looks over at me and he goes, so baby. And I'm like, don't baby me. Put up with that crap. I'm like, and then he turned back to my friend and go, oh, blah, 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 blah. She'd answer, da, 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 da. And then he'd come back to me. I'm like, I'm done with this. So he found in me not very nice. My friend was so sweet. She was absolutely sweet. And then when I said, we're going to go. So I made my friend get up and we walked out of there. And I never forgot what she said on the way out. She said to me, in her sweet voice, because she was one of these very nice people, she goes, that man, he was kind of shitty.
Yeah.
I'm like, no kidding. Yeah. Why were you nice to him in there? Because she felt she had to be nice to him. Because she was not. Exactly. She herself was not a shitty person. So these girls at Lake Sammamish, by the way, so Lake Sammamish, this entire crime right there shows how dumb Ted Bundy is. He goes up to girls and says, can you help me? My name is Ted. When you're a serial killer, don't give your real name. He says, my name is Ted. And he's standing next to a gold Volkswagen, which he drove, which is a very unusual car. Can you help me? Yeah. The girls help him. They end up dead. So his own girlfriend, who he was living with, calls the police because they're looking for this guy, right? She calls the police and says, my boyfriend's name is Ted. He owns a gold Volkswagen. And in his drawer, he has plaster of Paris to make casts. And he tried to strangle me once, and he was at Lake Sammamish. Yeah. And the police ignored her. Now, I'm sorry, but, if you can't, that was a silver platter. She gave 5 great clues on a silver platter that matched exactly to the crime, and they did not investigate him.
And even there was some guy recording that day also, so he was actually on the film.
Yeah, the guy's not a brain. Yeah. He wasn't a brain. He never was a brain. It wasn't cool. He wasn't any of these things. It's called really bad methodology for investigating serial homicide.
Yeah. So what we do know about him is that he was a serial killer, a necrophilia, a cannibal, a psychopath, and a pathological liar.
Oh, wait, don't be so mean. He wasn't all of those things.
Yeah, I think he was, because he was. And there's some interesting quote, and that brings me to the Dharma issue, because of the topic I want you to hear your opinion on. Okay. Now, there was one source that I read that read, Bundy's upbringing was filled with deception, chaos, and cruelty. I don't know if it's completely true, but this is supposed to be true. For years, he was told his mother was his sister and that his grandparents were his parents, to conceal that he was born out of wedlock. Right. The man he called dad was a vicious and unstable man. So, Ted Bundy, it says in the quote here, insisted his depravity had nothing to do with how he was raised. He claimed that he was brought up in a wonderful home with 2 dedicated and loving parents, and painted a portrait of familiar bliss devoid of the slightest vice. Wow. His relatives, however, told a drastically different story. Now, I want to raise a flag here, because this is what I find interesting in serial killers, not what they do and their cruelty, but they lie about one thing. They lie about everything, but the one thing they will never reveal, never ever reveal, is the flag here. So why does Ted Bundy do a lot of effort of explaining how wonderful his mother and father was? That is because he's hiding the truth. That is just my guess. That is the one thing he's protecting inside. That is actually something he will never expose, how he really felt about it. This is like a flag. When he's not blaming somebody, then they are to blame, because he's blaming everybody except his parents, right? So I think that is a red flag for me. The thing that he's supposedly truthful about, and the ones he's saying they had nothing to do with it, those are probably the ones who had something to do with why he became like he was. And that brings me to the Dharma issue, or the Dharma interview that Philip Stone, or
right.
what's his name? Philip Stone, I think it was. In 1993, he had that interview in the prison where his father, Lionel, was sitting beside him. So Dharma, he was void of any emotion. When he spoke, it was like a monotone, and he had no emotion whatsoever. But he told the truth as he saw it, I think. But he was also a pathologic liar, because otherwise he could not live the life he did, because he did to lie every day. But I think he tried to be truthful about certain things without any emotions. He just tried to describe. So the interviewer said, if you had talked to your father about your sexuality, because he was gay, right? Would that have changed anything? He said that, would that have changed or prevented you from going down that road you did? And then here's the quote I like. He says, I would never have opened up about that. Not the gayness. He says, I could have talked to my father about the gayness, but I would never have opened up about what made me go down that road, because there were things going on inside my head that I would never reveal to anyone. So Philip Stone, he keeps asking him, but how did it start? When did it happen? And he's avoiding this question, or he's giving some banal explanation, intellectual explanation, but he never reveals what that thing was. And I think it's the same with Ted Bundy. They will never reveal the real reason, but they will come up with intellectual, explanations, and blame everybody, right?
Here's the problem with all of this. Okay, serial killers, who are psychopaths, right? A psychopath is only interested in his own viewpoint of himself. He really doesn't give a crap what you think or what society thinks, because he's the only one that matters, right? So you end up with two possibilities whenever they say anything. One is that they want to pull the wool over on society's eyes for whatever it gains them. It could gain them a lesser sentence. It could gain them if they claim there's bodies they can show you that'll get them out of the prison for a while to go to McDonald's. They could claim things that will bring journalists in, because journalists are easy to fool, because they don't care what the truth is. They just want to make money most of the time. They just want a cool story. They can manipulate journalists, and they get entertainment out of that. They get something, they're bored. They get something to do. They can also watch the journalists write stuff that's completely a lie and laugh their asses off. So everything they do with somebody else can be in this category of they're manipulating for whatever purpose. They're going to get something beneficial to themselves. They can get sympathy. And Ted Bundy got married in prison, so if he can get sympathy from stupid women will marry him, and they will have sex with him in prison, and he can have kids, which he did, which is disgusting. So, whatever he's doing is to get dates, is to get letters from supporters, or even people who just want to say, I know you were psychologically disturbed, but I love that fact that you're trying to understand yourself. Whatever they can pull over anybody, because there's so many gullible people out there. So the first group is they're just saying whatever they're saying to get a benefit for themselves and get over on whomever else they're saying it. That's one group. Over here is another set of things, which is, since they're the only person that matters, these people don't really actually matter except for how you can use them. I've always said my favorite statement is, which I made up, it's mine, it's my quote.
Okay.
A psychopath will say, you're either useful or you're in my way. That's it. You're either useful or you're in my way. Now, these people are useful. If you're over here, which we're Simon, you're messing with people. You're saying whatever you're saying to them. They're useful, and so you're going to manipulate them and gaslight them. Okay, so now you're over here, and you're the only important person. Okay, so the other reason that you say whatever you say is because this gives you whatever rationale you want for whomever you are. It gives you whatever good feelings you want to have in your own private little personal universe. And so each serial killer has a different reason to say whatever they say over in their own little universe, and it's for only their own benefit. So if he wants to believe, for example, as Ted Bundy wants to believe that his childhood was wonderful, it may be just because he wants to have that memory that's not true, for example. Jeffrey Dahmer maybe, who knows what he says. So, I mean, each person has each psychopathic serial killer gives their explanation, but only for themselves. It's not for you, unless you're over here and they're using you. It's over here to create their own universe. Sometimes we even see that in diaries. That somebody will write an entire diary. Somebody asked me the other question the other day. Do serial killers keep diaries? Because there are some situations where, like, for example, Munchausen syndrome by proxy, women who kill their children will keep a diary and write in that diary about different things happening and what they feel and what happened. Now, there's two reasons they're writing the diary. One is because it's full of lies that they can use in court to say they're innocent. Oh my God, Or they're writing it for themselves because they want to read. This is their fantasy. Just because you write a diary doesn't mean it's true. You can write anything you want in a diary. It's your fantasy. So serial killers, when they're talking, either are manipulating the public or they're fantasizing for themselves. So the problem is, occasionally they actually may be telling the truth because, first of all, because the truth benefits them. So again, it's not because it's the proper, because they have, some kind of conscience, so they're telling you the truth. They don't care about that crap. So they're not telling you anything because it's the truth. They may tell the truth only because, again, it benefits them. So the problem we have is that since they are pathological liars, have no conscience, have no sense of guilt, have no empathy, the only way we can actually even look at their history is to have outside sources tell us what happened. Other than that, you're relying on a complete lying bastard. So it's my opinion is this. I'm a realist. I say to myself, quite frankly, I'm never actually going to know, and I don't really give a crap. I really don't care. What I care about is how we catch them, because the problem we're having is that our methodology is poor in catching serial killers. That's why they continue on for 20 years before we get them, because we're idiots as to how we catch them. So we need better methodology. I don't mean idiots, okay? It's just different methodologies that don't work, okay? So well-meaning people, but using methodologies are ineffective, or they're just very difficult to catch, period. So I'm concerned about how we catch them. Now, you may be concerned about how they are created. How is a serial killer created is a whole different issue. I will say this. I've never met a serial killer from a healthy home. A healthy home. In other words, you can be born with whatever predilections you have or whatever personalities you have. I don't believe in the blank slate theory. I believe you're born as some kind of particular human being. But if you're born into absolute chaos, absolutely a horrific kind of place to be, that can definitely affect you. So I think it's a nature plus nurture type of thing. And so do I believe as parents we have a role to play, and as communities we have a role to play to provide healthy environments for our children so they don't turn out to be psychopaths and serial killers? The answer is yes. I absolutely believe that.
Of course.
And then we also have to have a society that doesn't stand for allowing this to happen, so that we're vigilant as a society. So when the kids are growing up and they start stabbing children in the eyes when they're 3 years old with pencils, we might say something like, there's a problem here, not like, he's just, I don't know, maybe he's just expressing it. Right.
No, I agree. I wholeheartedly agree with everything you say. But the problem is that when these guys are caught, people are, analyzing them with their interviewing, because they want to find out, why did you do it? Because they want to prevent this from happening, and they think they can learn
because it's
from
fun and they enjoyed it. So you have to prevent this from being fun and enjoyable, because most of us would not find that fun and enjoyable. But those 4 girls, 2 out of 4, at least the one who killed the girl that so affected you, she enjoyed every living minute of it, because it was fun for her. It was something she enjoyed doing. People don't do things they don't like doing, like that. So we have to understand that we cannot create a creature, a human being, that finds these kind of things something that makes his life better. And we also have to find a way to stop it from happening. So in case we create one of these beings by whatever, from birth, from his family, from the community, whatever storm came together, like it's like a tornado, you know what I mean? Everything just comes together and creates a funnel. If we've created that, we got to stop it immediately. So if anybody gets harmed, hopefully nobody, but if anybody gets harmed, it's only one person, not 30. You know what I mean? So.
And it's a perfect point you're raising that actually it is a healthy family is the best protection for
absolutely
for us. So that is
never seen a serial killer come out of a healthy family. Never.
No.
Yeah. Mother, father, loving parents who brought into the world children that they wanted, had an equal amount of love and discipline, and taught them empathy, taught them to care about other human beings, and showed them that kind of care. We have a lot of detachment disorder with serial killers where they never ever connected with human beings.
Or except if they have a mental illness, if they're born with a mental illness.
Well, it's detachment disorder. So mental illness gets tricky because we often associate mental illness with psychotic. They're not psychotic. They're absolutely aware of what they're doing, and they like what they're doing. They're totally logical in what they do. They make their choices with a clear view of their view of reality. This is not like psychotic, where you actually think things are happening that aren't happening. Serial killers know exactly what's happening. They're all psychopaths. But is psychopathy a mental illness? Well, I would have to say it's not a great state of mind. You know what I mean? It's not. I mean, I would look at, when we look at our lives and we say, I'm an ethical person, I'm a moral person, I have friends, I have family, I don't want to do harm to people, I don't want to do harm to myself, I treasure life, I appreciate that I've been given life, I want to do the best I can on this planet while I'm here.
And you feel others' pain, and that is empathy.
All of that is emotionally healthy. So if you take a psychopath and the psychopath is sitting there going, I really like to see people bleed. I like to crush people. I would love to stab somebody 50 times because it would be funny. You have to say that is probably not an emotionally healthy state. So, is that a mental illness? And in that sense, it is a mental illness because we're not sicker for over here. We're sicker for over here. But the problem is they're not psychotic. They're choosing specifically to do what they want to do. And the question is,
I see what you mean.
Do we put them in a mental institution? We can't fix them. That's the first thing that can happen. You can take a psychotic person and put them in a mental institution, and then you can bring them back to reality through drugs or help, some kind of therapy. You cannot. The psychopath already knows what reality is. He just wants to destroy things around him because it's fun and it makes him feel better. And so when you put him in the institution, a psychiatric institution, he just manipulates the hell out of the psychologists who seem not to understand psychopaths, and then they let him out like after 10 years, and he goes and kills some more people. Because he's like, what a bunch of fools. They should have known better. And he learns from going to the therapy groups. He learns how to manipulate better. Like if they say things like, you should show empathy. So when a person says, I've had a bad day, you should say, oh, what happened to you? I'd like to hear about your bad day. Now, the psychopath doesn't give a crap about this dude or his bad day, but he has been taught that if he responds to it properly, he can then gain something, you see. So then he goes, oh, so you've had a bad day? Tell me about your bad day. And then he thinks of a good way to get something out of this guy. But the psychologists a lot of times fall for this stuff. It's like, oh, he's getting better. I'm like, no, he's getting better.
But that's an excellent point, Pat. Actually, that is actually calling what in Denmark we call calling a spade. We call a thing for what it is, and that is exactly as it is. never trust a word from a psychopath because they are living in their own world, in their own
Correct.
bubble, and they are doing whatever
Right.
they want to please themselves, and then use you as a means to an end.
Yeah, it's
But
unfortunate. We
that
look for
also brings,
motive. We want motives that we want motives and we want explanations. And a lot of times the motives are clear, the explanations are clear, but we don't like them. Because
no,
they're like we want to fix something, and we can't fix with those kind of motives and explanations. It's like it's a done deal. It's like
yeah.
I have a
Which also brings up the last point that I want to
Okay.
hear your opinion on, because you brought up the point with Anthony Casey, the jury problem, and the problem of expert witness, and that's why I want to bring up Albert Fish, because
Okay.
anybody who's familiar with the case
Oh,
of Albert
Albert
Fish
Fisk.
knows that,
Ah.
yeah, Albert Fish, yeah, everything that could go wrong went wrong with him. His upbringing, his mental illness, and everything that could go wrong manifested in that man, and
That's
he
when
was
the guy turned out to be one of the strangest, creepiest serial
yeah.
killers with a very, very bizarre look at the world.
Yeah, and he had so many mental illness. At the same time, there was what can we learn? Okay, so in the trial, the question was he accountable for the crimes with all this mental illness? And some
Right.
expert witness came out and said, which stresses the point you have made earlier about the problem with expert witness and us as laymen, or the jury as laymen, to discern which is the correct version. In the trial, it lasted for 10 days. Fisk pleaded insanity and claimed to
Right.
have heard voices from God, and he expected, God to stop him
Well, at least he
from
heard it
killing
from God
these
and
people.
not from David Berkowitz.
Yeah.
Said he heard it from a dog. At least it's a one-upper on that.
He didn't hear it from Amber Heard. No, but uh, but the problem.
That was
But the
funny.
problem with him was that actually you name any fetish, he had it. He had everything,
Everything.
like everything, and he inflicted pain on himself. So the defense lawyer said in his argumentation that Fish was a psychiatric phenomenon, that nowhere in legal or medical records there were any other individual who possessed so many sexual abnormalities. So they said that's why he cannot be judged as a sane person, because all this is completely, he's not responsible. Then the rebuttal was, the expert witness was from a psychiatric hospital where he went and was treated for something. He said he was abnormal, but he was sane, because a person was not mentally sick, because there were common perversions that were socially perfect, all right, and Fish had no different from millions of other people, some very prominent and successful, who also suffer from the very same perversions.
Right.
And so he says
very
the things he's doing, yeah. So you have expert jury, expert witness here, and you have expert witness here. And if I was to make a judgment on this, it would be hard. But then, one of the jury, he said, or afterwards they were interviewed, and this quote I like: none of the jurors doubted that Fish was insane, but ultimately, as one lady explained, they felt he should be executed anyway. So he went to the electric chair, and was sentenced to death. So
Yeah.
I mean, what is the point in arguing is if he's insane, if he's still guilty of these crimes, these horrible crimes, and what do you want to do with this guy if he's insane? Would you hospitalize him? Would you think that he could make amends and become normal? What is?
Right. Well,
Yeah,
I guess I look at it this way. First of all, a psychopath can also be psychotic. People don't realize that, but a psychopath is a way of thinking about the world. Okay, you understand what the world is, you just don't like it, and you don't like your place in it. So I always point out this continuum. So here we are, and hopefully if we're healthy, we're like here, right? We have a reasonable concern about our own being. Like we're not selfish, but we do have some self-interest, shall we say. So, if I invite you to dinner, I'm not going to eat you, which is the first thing. Which like certain people, like Jeffrey Dahmer, might think, oh, good, I'll feed you, and then I'm going to feed on you. But I'm not like that. I present you a dinner for two reasons. One is maybe I'm excited to be able to present a nice meal and to see you enjoy yourself. But on the other hand, I also want to enjoy myself. So you see, that's a give and take. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Most of us are like that, the healthy people. But then there's a level of selfishness that gets a little extreme. That's where we get the narcissism and Amber Heard. She's up there. She's a malignant narcissist and a half. And then you get to psychopathy, which is like at the end of that continuum, where you have zero empathy for anybody else but yourself, and you have zero interest in anybody else's life, health, anything except for yourself. You're willing to do anything you want to do to get what you want. So you already have that by the time you're 5 years old, pretty much. So is this just a part of your personality? This is not a defect in your head. It's part of your personality. Now, some psychopaths can also, at certain points in their life, become psychotic. Who's the mathematician? Who was that brilliant mathematician guy? They made a movie about him. Oh, I'm blanking on it now.
Well, there's a lot of them. I think Albert Einstein.
Super brilliant mathematician, and he did really weird things. And they basically said, I'm blanking.
A Beautiful Mind.
Yes, A Beautiful Mind.
Yeah.
Oh, I looked into his book, and I read the book, and I looked at the movie, and I'm like, that guy exhibits a lot of psychotic behavior prior to what looked like he became psychotic. So I think you can have both. The problem is when you come down to somebody like Albert Fish, when you become both, what happens is you're unable to see the world properly at all. There was a guy out in Virginia. I always remember this crime because this guy killed this, he was walking down the sidewalk, and this guy was with a woman, or I don't remember who, was with their son. It was like 8 years old, and he just pulls out a knife and stabs the 8-year-old to death. And then he hails a cab, gets in the cab, and everybody sees this, and he goes back to this motel he was staying at. And when the police arrived, he was in the shower eating a cheese sandwich. It's like what? I mean, and he got convicted because it was like everybody knew he did it. But his behaviors were so strange that he probably did have some delusion over why she killed this 8-year-old child, as opposed to just wanting to do it. But on the other hand, so you can look at that and say, maybe there's some hope. But when you get a serial killer, and it's not a one-time thing, it's like one after the other, and in between, he's able to manipulate people and put on airs and use ruses and stuff and lure people. He's got a lot of ability to do all of these things. Just because he's got some weird predilections, likes to eat nails and stuff, and like he said when he was on, going to the death chamber, oh yay, I can't wait to be electrocuted or whatever. I mean, the guy's weird. But so what? Being weird doesn't give you an out for responsibility for your horrific behaviors. I think what would be useful is that people can understand that unless it's a one-time, completely psychotic thing, and believe me, I have people who contact me who are clearly psychotic. I can tell in an email who's psychotic and who's psychopathic in an email. Psychopaths are always like, "Hi, Pat." I'm like, "Stop talking to me like I'm your friend." So and then they go, I've had serial killers write me letters. Happy Face Killer was one of them. Wrote me letters. "Hi, Pat." I'm like, and then he goes on. He's very clear. Every one of his sentences is normal. He's saying, "Hi, I saw you on TV. I think you're a brilliant profiler." Sure you do. And I want to talk to you about blah, 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 blah. And then there's people who come on and they'll say like, hey Pat, I think that the entourage of the existing world view of the, and you're like, what the hell are they talking about? And they're so convoluted, it makes no sense. All the stuff is jumbled. You can tell a psychotic in a heartbeat. And they can write to you over and over and over again, but it's all psychotic nonsense. But a psychopath is never like that. He's always writes perfectly clearly. If you look at Danny Rowling, for example, Rowling. I always forget his name. Rowling. Danny Rowling. And I actually just did. Yeah, I just did 2 shows. They'll be showing up on TV. But anyway, Danny Rowling, he's a psychopath and a half. And when you read his stuff, he's clear as a bell. because he's not psychotic. Psychotic people are pretty obvious. So, to me, if you're a psychopath that commits one crime after another crime after another crime, with forethought and clarity, you just need to go. You just need to go to prison or go to the death penalty.
But it still poses a problem, doesn't it, Pat? Because it poses the problem that when you are convicting somebody, to let's say that you are determining them to be insane, right. So they are not accountable. But how does that leave the victims? The victim families. How does that make up for that sense of justice for them? Because he still did it, right?
Yeah,
he still did it.
I think the proper response probably would be if we had people who really understood things, including the psychologist. Let's say the person, one thinks they did have I think Andrea Yates is probably a good example of that. She drowned all her children. There's a lot of people think she just had a psychotic break. I'm going to have to do a show on that one day, because I wonder, was it a psychotic break, or was her psychopathy prior to the supposed psychotic break? I don't know. I haven't looked at it in a long time. Originally, she was considered a psychopath who murdered her children, and then she was given a break and considered psychotic at the moment. But it's interesting. If a guy had done the same thing, he'd just probably get death penalty right away. They would not give him a break. Yeah. But she's a woman, so clearly she just her husband didn't treat her well, and she couldn't handle raising children, and she lost it.
Yeah.
But the question is, did she? So okay, let's say you take a person like that. She's murdered a bunch of people, and you move her to a psychiatric institute. The question is, does she stay there? And I think if a lot of people would think, if she stayed there forever and didn't get a chance to come out and live a normal life again after all these people she's murdered did not, or if it's a guy who's done it did not, we could accept that. But what happens is they get so much attention, and they get fans, and they get well wishers, and then they get whatever they get, and then they convince the psychologist to let them out, and so 20 years later, they're living a normal life. At 50 years old, they're like, oh, I'm out, and I killed 4 people or whatever, bunch of children, whatever, but I'm good now.
Yeah.
And I think that is extreme. If I were a parent, let's say that person murdered my child, I would take offense to that. If I were the grandparent, I would take offense to that. But if people can try to say that the person wasn't in their right mind, and therefore did not mean to kill their children, that their real self didn't mean to kill their children, it was this psychological state they were in that made them kill their children, then you say to, well, how can you permanently penalize a person who didn't know what they were doing, because that wasn't the real them. It's like like something took over. And it gets really tricky. As to whether it does. Talk about justice. Let me just talk about justice. Justice sucks. I mean, it's very hard to get what feels like justice to people. It really is. So the question is it death penalty justice? Is life in prison justice? Is life in prison okay as long as I don't get to get married and have children? Justice. Is it justice as long as I don't get to have fan clubs? Is it justice as long as they don't get back into society? Is it justice that they do 20 years but then given another chance? I mean, there's so many arguments over this, and I don't know how I would feel if in their shoes, but from what I know from most people, this is what I think happens, is that a good portion of people, no matter what happens to the person that killed their loved one, never think it's justice no matter what. They never feel that way. If they have a particular, I've told you before, I'm not going to get into religion here, but if they have a particular belief that justice will occur after that person leaves this earth, that gives them a level of comfort that this earth is not everything the world is, that life is about, that there's life hereafter, and therefore there's a more proper court without 12 people of a civilian jury that just got off a bus stop who don't know damn anything, and then they're just going to guess what they think. Now, the other thing I've always pointed out to people, and I say this repetitively because I believe it's true, the issue of forgiveness. I have a problem with when people think forgiving a killer who killed your child. First of all, let me back up. I have a problem when people think they're going to go to prison and all they want is an explanation. It's a psychopath. He's going to lie to you, and don't go there. Doesn't matter what he thinks or says. It's all garbage anyway. Don't even waste your time. Don't give him the pleasure of having you there so he can muck with you too. Don't go there. Understand that this person is a very damaged human being. I mean, if you're a psychopath, you're an extremely damaged human being. However you got there, why you're there, why you did what you did, we as human beings will not understand it or be able to explain it. So let's not even bother. Let's understand that he's like a lion. He was like a lion that decided that your child or your loved one was a deer, was an antelope, and he wanted to take it out because it gave him joy and pleasure, and he doesn't have any understanding that you care about that damn antelope. So he's done this horrible thing. Forgiving him serves little purpose. What are you forgiving him for? He's not asking for forgiveness because he's a psychopath. So it's not like somebody who really truly wants to make up for something he's done wrong. And then you can forgive them and move on with life. Let's say a drunk driver kills your child. It's a kid who left a party, he wasn't thinking, and he killed your child. I get that. Then you can forgive. He can come for forgiveness and say, I never meant to hurt your loved one. I was a stupid kid. I was drinking. It was my fault. I shouldn't have been on the road. I feel horrible about it. I don't know. I'll do anything I can to try to right. I know I can't right the wrong, but I can do.
But that would also be the truth.
Correct.
He would.
So
really,
he asks
really,
for
really
forgiveness, and you can give forgiveness to a person who is not a psychopath because he actually does care about you, and he does feel badly, has guilt, and so you say, "I forgive you because now I know you didn't do it on purpose. I'm going to let that go as far as you did it on purpose, and of course you paid your price. Hopefully your penalty should still be there, and then we'll move on doing something good." All right. But forgiving a psychopath has always driven me kind of nuts. It's like, so I've forgiven the guy who brutally raped and murdered my daughter. Okay.
That's going to be hard.
I have a problem with that. I say what you do is this. Don't forgive because there's nothing to forgive there. Really in that sense. You can accept. You can accept that they did not know what they were doing. I know that, if you're looking in Christian sense, okay, I don't was going to bring religion in, but, forgive them for they know not what they did. But in this case, they actually did know what they did. So you can accept that they did wrong. You can accept that you can't change it. You can accept that hopefully there is whatever happens in the future after this life happens. You can accept. Accepting is a lot more rational than forgiving a person who doesn't ask for forgiveness. I mean, that's just my opinion. Now, everybody has their own comfort levels. I've learned to accept things in life that I can't change. And I leave the rest up to elsewhere. But that's just my opinion. Everybody's got their own way of dealing with it. But I think that
but it's a good explanation also, because forgiveness is that you are blanking the pace and you're saying, okay, it's even, it's okay, I forget it. But you can never do that if it's if the situation to describe.
I cannot forgive you. I can accept that you've done a horrible thing, and I don't know what lies elsewhere for justice outside of this world. But I'm going to have faith maybe that something comes of it, or that in some other afterlife that you learn that you were wrong and evil and all that stuff. And I don't know, I don't know where to go with it. But we can only concern ourselves. We have two things. We can concern ourselves with justice on earth, because we do have governments and we do have justice systems, although they're not very just a good portion of the time. And we have an idiotic a civil jury system with a bunch of people who have no idea what they're doing, try to decide what to do with somebody. But we can improve those things, and we can improve our society so that we don't have children being brought up in horrific homes. We don't have children without family. We don't have children without father and mother. You know, we have a lot of kids who don't grow up with a 2-parent family, or whatever. We can address all of these things because we are humans, and we can do that. And we can do the justice on earth as best we can. We can't do the justice in the afterlife. That's not our ability to do so. So that's kind of where it come down. But I think that the trouble is people, you know, it's so difficult to figure out what sentences you put with people that you cannot explain. But I think a lot of people do not understand psychopathy, and that you cannot let them out in the world again. That's my point with that. That they don't deserve it. First of all, they took away somebody's life. And when they killed that person, guess what they didn't do? That person didn't commit a crime. They didn't get a lawyer. They didn't get probable cause. They didn't get a trial. And they didn't get convicted. And yet you gave them the death penalty. Without anything. You just like that, you gave them the death penalty. As if you were the judge and jury. So, to me, if you're willing to give somebody else a death penalty just like that, I'm not having too much of a problem with you getting one too. You know?
No.
I mean, I think that's fair. You know, I think it's fair.
But that's and the way you are presenting it is, I understand and I know where you come from. That makes sense. But many things, are still not justice, and we cannot really do much about it. But I think that
we have to keep working. We have to keep working because we're humans. We're here on Earth. We try to. It's part of our responsibility to do the best we can to improve, you know, our lives as humans and to be better human beings. I mean, we have to do that. I mean, otherwise.
And speaking of that, Pat, I noticed that Laura Higgins commented on your show about Julia Ray Harper.
Oh yes.
Did
you
that. Saw that, right?
No, I'm not sure. What did she say?
The show that you did about Julia Ray, you know, Joe Kirkpatrick,
correct,
and the ex-husband of Julia. He's married to a lady called Laura.
Oh
Higgins,
yes, she did comment. She commented on YouTube. Yes, she did.
Which I find that brings this show to you know, that is the top you can do is to get people that is involved with the case saying you did a good job, you know, and you looked at it the way I looked at it. So I was really impressed that she had watched the show and also that she commented. Yeah, it was really fantastic.
You know, Benny, one of the things that happens when you do profiling and when you put yourself out there in the public, you know, you get comments all the time which, you know, are not necessarily pleasant. Shall we say? You have to have you have to be able to be willing to accept that people say things like Pat Brown couldn't. What's my favorite one? Pat Brown couldn't profile shit in a paper bag. That was kind of good. I gotta admit, that was pretty funny.
Somebody said that. Okay.
Yes, Pat Brown couldn't profile shit in a paper bag. So. You know, and you get these things, and people say, "How does it affect me?" Well, I've learned to let it bounce off of me, you know. But you know, we do like to believe that we're good at what we do, and that we're, you know, we're not idiots, and we don't want to be looked at as morons and horrible profiles, and we don't like that. So what happens is sometimes when you do something about a family issue, about a specific case, and you suddenly see something come in on your email or on YouTube, a comment from somebody who's actually a family member, the first thing that happens, I can toss off everything everybody else says because I'm like, whatever, I'm used to it. I you know, I've been in this business a long time. I get used to it. But when I see the family come in, my heart like goes like this. I'm like, oh my God, because the last thing I want is that they're going to say, how could you have done this to my family? How could you have said this about my family? How could you say that my loved one is guilty or whatever it is, you know? And you know, so a level of fear, that's a one time I think fear like goes into me, and I start going, oh my God, it's a family member. And so when I read hers, and of course this is from the ex-husband, the father of Joel, who believes his ex-wife is guilty. and she was very relieved because most of the YouTube shows are all pro Julie Ray being innocent, and that is actually Tommy Lynn Sells, a serial killer who was guilty. Almost all the shows down across the board are like that. And I think when she saw mine, she probably watched it thinking, again, here we go again. And then she was like surprised to see that I actually did not believe she was innocent, and I felt evidence supported that she was guilty. And so this was a, like, thank you, Pat type of thing. I'm like, oh my God, that's a relief, but it's, so I have to admit, it's heartwarming for me when I see somebody come through with, they appreciate what I've analyzed, but not always does that come true. Sometimes it's really tough because somebody will come in and they will say, you're completely wrong. How dare you? And I don't know.
Yeah, and
it's
also
hard. It's like,
but also I think it was brilliant that she mentioned that she saw the show with Dr. Grande and that. And now she saw your show. So your show was more to you get two sides of the case.
Let me say what the problem with Dr. Grande, in my opinion, he does a show now with two other guys who are like they're all like in therapy. They're a therapist, and they're now doing this crime scene analysis, and none of them are capable of it, in my opinion. Now, let me just say this: I'm not one of these people that believes that. You can't be a profile if you're a regular person. You know what I mean? Or like, I'm against armchair profiling. Now, armchair profiling is different than somebody who is a student of profiling, or a person who wants to analyze the evidence to learn profiling, or maybe even has the ability to do so without a degree. I don't have a problem with this. My problem with armchair profiling is it's usually a bunch of people who do not understand how to analyze evidence and come to conclusions and then put them out there on the internet as if they're true. And Dr. Grande, in my opinion, I have no problem with his show. I like his show, actually. He does some people say, oh my God, he's a fraud. He's not really a psychologist. Oh, that's garbage. The guy he may not have gone through the traditional psychiatrist route, but he's got credentials up the kazoo. He's very, very credentialed, and not only that, just experienced in what he does. I have no problem with Dr. Grande. I do not think he's a fraud. I think he presents very interesting psychological analyses, and sometimes even on crime cases. I don't have a problem with that. I think where I have an issue is when he veers into crime scene analysis that he's not really skilled at doing. And then he gets into the guesswork stuff. And that new show he's got with the two dudes, they're just sort of guessing all over the place. And they're believing Tommy Lynn Sells. Oh, Tommy Lynn Sells said this. I'm like, hold on a second. Sorry.
I think that we're even a little bit making fun or mocking the prosecutor throughout the show.
Yeah. Well, the thing that got me the most was this statement they made, which was, I don't know, a guy with a big beard. I think it was him. Anyway, he said, Tommy Lynn Sells said, this is the explanation Tommy Lynn Sells gives for why he committed this crime, that he saw Julie Ray and some convenience store. She was rude to him. So based on that, he followed her home to attack her. But instead he killed her kid and didn't bother to mess with her. And I'm like, this is the dumbest explanation I've ever heard. First of all, and see, this is the problem. The three of them were willing to accept the statement of a psychopathic serial killer without questioning the fact that he's probably just lying through his teeth. We don't know that he was. First of all, there's no proof he was in town. Secondly, even if he was, there's no proof that he saw her in a store. And third, there's no proof that she offended him in any way. It's all a bunch of bull. So he's just making stuff up. And they're saying it's true. They're accepting it as truth, and that's it, motive for the crime. And right there, I'm like, okay, guys, you may be a good therapist, but you're not the best at crime scene analysis.
No. You know? And why would Tommy Lynn Sells kill Joe and not her? That he had
the whole. I mean, anybody who's watching this, go and look at my my whole thing on that case. It's in the playlist. Go look in the playlist for Julie Ray, and I explain all the different pieces of evidence that support one thing or the other, and Tommy Lynn Sells there's no proof he was ever in town. A lot of things that Julie said were so bizarre that you have to question that she was not involved, and all the evidence supports that. So I was pleased that I got this lovely comment that it's nice to get them once in a while when everybody attacking you.
But it makes it worthwhile to do the show also, I think.
Well, the reason I do the show.
Really good.
Well, wait. No, the reason I do the show is never to solve crimes, and I point this out because I am.
It's education.
It's education. I stick with that because I like to solve crimes. Believe me. I mean, if I had my way, I would have more opportunities to be there in the first 48, where I could sit in a police department and work on the tricky cases, not the ones that everybody knows who damn well did it. The ones that they come and go, Pat, could you take a look at this? Because it makes no sense. We're not quite sure if Julie Ray is guilty or if she's not guilty. Take a look at this. I would love to work in the first 48 on those cases. However, we don't have police departments who are hiring profilers on the inside. We don't have them bringing in profilers. The only time profilers ever show up is like 5 years later from the FBI when they just, the media is all over them saying, why didn't you solve the case? So they bring in some FBI profiler who says a bunch of things that don't make any sense, and then they go away, and that's, So I would love, to tell you the truth, if somebody today said, we have a big police department, we'd like you to work here, I would have trouble saying no to that. But because that isn't there, I'm a realist. What I really want to do is teach people, especially detectives, how to think logically, how to look at evidence, and how to be analytical and logical, so that they do the best job in the investigation, so they get the best leads. Because it's not a matter of being right. Profiling is not about, I just came up with this stuff and it's definitely 100% correct. No, it's looking at the evidence and trying to say which way should we go to get more evidence till we get to the point where we can prove somebody committed the crime. That's where I believe.
But in a broader sense, Pat, you're also educating the people on YouTube that are watching crime shows, because they are also, if they're going for this case, yours will pop up also, and if they look at your show, they'll be educated.
Wait a minute, you think the algorithm likes me? The algorithm likes a lot of other ones better.
I don't know, because you're my favorite list. But I think that you are educating people to see that there's a different explanation if you look at the evidence. So people will also look at those shows that you do, and they will, of course, and they'll be educated.
Right.
And there's two sides.
And I hope, Benny, that I can influence future criminal justice students, future profilers, future detectives, and also just in our regular lives. We all use profiling. We all profile. We all do crime scene analysis. As a matter of fact, the other day, I got to tell this story because it's just funny. So, I don't have it here. But anyway, I'm kind of a Diet Pepsi addict. So, like, I have a Diet Pepsi bottle, right? It's about this big, and it has a silver cap on it. And I realized after a while that it's like really expensive to keep buying this size. So I buy the big one, because I can get them for like $4 for like $8, like $2 a piece. If I get the big ones, and then what I do is I take a funnel, I open up the thing, put a funnel on it, pour it in, and I get a cheaper drink, right? All right. Yeah. That's what I do. So anyway, I got my soda, right? I take my granddaughter to the park. And she's out playing. She's 8 years old. She's playing on the equipment. And I take my bottle and I set it next to the bench. Now it's a very busy day because it's school's out. It's a very busy day. So I put the bottle down by my bench. Okay? And at some point I go to the bathroom and take the bottle with me. Then I come back. We get home. I set the bottle on my counter, and the damn thing has a gold top on it.
Yeah.
I'm like, I've never seen a gold top on my Pepsi bottle. What the heck? It's always it's a silver top. I've been years and years and years. It's a silver top, Diet Pepsi, silver top. And now I'm like, what the hell? So now I'm going back to my mind doing crime scene analysis. Went to the park. I put the bottle next to my bench. Did I ever leave the bottle alone so that somebody else could access it? So then I'm thinking, okay, maybe I took the top off and did this. Maybe I dropped the cap. And then I reached down and picked up another cap and put it on the bottle. So now I've got a dirty, scuzzy cap on my bottle. It's gold. I'm thinking, I'm like going through my mind thinking, what the heck could have happened here? All right. I talk about evidence having good explanations, and if you check the evidence, you'll find it. Okay, so I'm like, my granddaughter's like, she's like funny. She knows about the silver cap. She's like, Mom, Grandma, where'd the gold cap come from? I'm like, I don't know, and I'm like, okay, first of all, it's not likely that I never left it unattended, so therefore, it shouldn't be that somebody else accessed it, right? So that just seems to be unreasonable. Like you said, not logical, not probable. And that I would put the thing down and drop the bottle and not look down when I picked up another cap to put on the bottle seems illogical as well. Like, what in the world? How would it have a gold top on it? Then I suddenly said to myself, wait a minute. When I went to CVS, they were out of Diet Pepsi, the big bottles. I could only get, I think it was like Pepsi Zero or something I never buy.
Pepsi Max, maybe.
One of those. And I opened my refrigerator up, and son of a gun, those suckers had gold caps on them. So what happened was, when I took the big bottle out, I had the smaller bottle, I undid this bottle, I took the funnel, I poured it in, and then I switched the caps.
Yeah.
Which had never happened in a decade. So that's how the gold cap got from a bottle I normally never use onto the bottle I always use. And you look at this and you're like, wow, this is just a weird, like, regular life kind of thing. But it was like, I was like, bugged by this. What did I pick up a dirty cap off the playground floor, the ground, and stick it on you? But there was a rational explanation for the gold and silver cap. Yeah, who knew? But all of these things, all of profiling and crime scene analysis is something we do in our daily lives. We meet somebody, we analyze them. Something happens, we analyze it. We come home, you take your husband's jacket out of the closet, you find condoms in there, and you're like,
yeah, and you better have a good explanation for that. Yeah.
Maybe there's some other reason for this. Why is So we always look at things that happen. Why is our boss acting the way the boss is acting? So we always use crime scene analysis, even if it's not a quote crime, but an incident analysis. And so teaching logic, which is not taught in schools today, which I wish it was. Logic is very important. Because if we can't use logic, then we end up analyzing things in the wrong way, we come to wrong conclusions, wrong determinations, not only in crimes, but just in our assessment of other things in life. So I hope that through this channel, even if not solving crimes, you can solve the crime of why the hell your bottle has a gold cap on it.
I can find my socks tomorrow now.
Yes, and if you're like me, which I mentioned, Benny, if you're like me, you gave up on that. I buy one set of socks from Amazon. I just click it. They're white socks. They're the same socks. They always match because I cannot figure out where that other sock always goes to. I have one gray sock, one brown sock, one tall sock, one short sock. I'm so annoyed. I buy one set of socks now, and I'm perfectly fine now. I mean, they still disappear, but now they all match.
That's a good idea.
I'm lazy.
But when you talk about that Pepsi, I want to, because there are two. I said there were two short questions in the end. And
the two questions. Okay,
a little funny question.
Now, guys. Betty's so cool that we've been here for 2.5 hours, which is way too long for our show. But hey, it's fun. So Betty is going to ask me these two questions, which I may or may not answer.
Yeah.
I told Betty, I said, hey, if I'm not going to answer the question, I'm just going to say, I'm not answering that, Betty. See ya.
Well, I think you are going to answer it because I think you already answered it now. Because I was going to ask you, what is in that square-shaped glass that you are drinking during the show? That dark liquid, is that Pepsi then?
Oh, okay. So now I want to explain this. This is a wonderful thing. It's called Criminal Profiler Pat. Somebody says there? Okay, Criminal Profiler Pat Brown. This is from Christine. Christine is my wonderful friend now from Minnesota, who has been a really long Patreon, and she's always at my shows, and she's wonderful. And I used to live in Minnesota, so we have a little connection there. And she sent me this wonderful thing to represent my show. So now you're asking me what actually is in here. It's Diet Pepsi, of course.
Of course.
No, I know what Benny's actually asking. Benny says, is there something with the Diet Pepsi?
Is there some rum or some whiskey or whatever?
Okay, let me see how honest I want to be. Sometimes this is Pepsi. Sometimes it's just Diet Pepsi. But I have to admit, I kind of like, I was in Cuba. And Cuba has the best rum in the world.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And I was in Cuba. I brought back like 8 bottles of their rum because you can only bring it back if you're in Cuba. You can't buy it elsewhere and bring it back to the United States. Although I was in Paris and I was in the airport and I found the rum at like 5 times the price. But I bought 2 bottles and I didn't realize I was breaking the law when I brought it back, And I'm like, they're like, what kind of liquor do you have in there? I'm like, airport liquor? And then I realized, oh my God, I have Cuban rum and it's illegal to bring it to the United States.
Yeah.
It's in my cabinet. But anyway, you can't buy the Cuban rum here, and it's fabulous. And I hate most of the rums you can buy in this country because they suck.
Yeah.
But I found one from Haiti, which is quite decent. It's called an 8-star. I forgot what the name of it is. I don't know if some of it made it in here or it didn't make it in here. Could be Diet Pepsi.
Could be,
It could not be just Diet Pepsi.
That is for the detective to find out.
I'm going to leave it with Now, people say I'm a little happy. I'm very. I have no filter. I've been accused of that. No filter. Too happy. I speak fast, but I'm from New Jersey in America. I speak fast. That's just what we do. So believe me, guys, this is just me. I mean, I'm just me. But,
relaxing, being yourself. Yeah.
So I'm not going to say there couldn't be Haitian rum in here because it is the second best too.
But that's quite all right. I would do the same thing when I want to relax and
Well,
it's.
Do you know how stressful this show is? Do you know how stressful it's not talking that's stressful. It's the electronics that go wrong. It's the internet that fails on you. It's the lights that don't work. It's the microphone that don't work. It's all of that. I don't have any problem with anything else. It's the stupid electronics. I mean, people don't realize. I showed a picture once of everything around me because in front of me is a big light. There's 2 lights over here. My iPad's over here. My mic's right here right now. I have the radio thing here.
Yeah.
And there's so many things wired in, and I don't have any help, because people say, well, why don't you have people helping you? I'm like, do you know how much I don't make on YouTube right now?
Yeah.
I don't have a million subscribers. I have I make about. I'll be totally honest. When I work my other job outside of profiling, I would make $50 an hour, about $50 an hour. Here, I think I am now averaging $2.50.
Yeah.
I'm like,
it's just enough for.
It's a labor of love. It's a labor of love at the moment.
Yeah.
It's because and I'm going to be honest. It's because I'm 66. I can survive without. I don't have to support a family. I don't have children. I have to take care of. I'm good where I'm at. Would I like to make the $50 an hour? Because I'm working hard. I work 40 hours. I work 40 hours a week on the show. Would I like that?
Yeah.
Would I like to? I do encourage people to support the show, support Patreon, because it's hard to work and not earn at least a minimal living at it, because it's a lot of work. But I'm also not supporting a family, so I can not be as desperate as other people might be. So,
but still, the hard work deserves also credit, and also it deserves some payment and some sort of.
But I also do want to leave a legacy.
A
legacy, and not for myself. A legacy. When I say a legacy, I want, I've been in profiling for over 20 years, and my whole issue about profiling is I want to educate. And I feel bad if I don't accomplish that in my lifetime. Just because I feel like that's what I want to do. I want to be able to provide education. I'm going to have the profiling school thing going on here. I'm working on the development of the program for detectives. And, I'd like to do that. I started out with that whole intention, and I ended up doing a lot of television and other things to support myself, and also because I said, can you come on? I'm like, okay. but not stupid. But this is the thing I want to accomplish. And my mother died at 93, so I got like 27 years.
Yeah.
So I think I'm pretty good, but this is something I would like to do. Everybody wants to do something in the world while they're there, and this is something I want to do. I want to improve the methodology of profiling, the methodology of crime scene analysis, and the methodology of handling serial homicide. I think that's very important. Oh, wait, I gotta see what Christine says. Because Christine gave me this. Forever for the love of Pat and her criminal profiling show and keeping us educated. You rock, Pat. This has been the coolest show today. Awesome, Benny. And Christine, what's in your glass? Christine doesn't know what's in the glass.
No.
Okay, what's your second question? Betty has a second question.
And that's actually related to what you just described, that you're saying, I'm putting in a lot of hours for this. I would like to know your research process. What do you do? Because you have only a few days, like when I brought up, I have brought up Sandra Melga case, right. Elisa Lam, Phoebe Hanchuk,
I don't know your cases. What is it, Benny? Why am I doing all your cases?
Yeah, I don't know, and also the Julia Ray, but I'm thinking, how can you manage to do all that research and keep it all in your head? And because what is your process? How much time do you invest before the show? Because I'm thinking you have like 3 days or something, and you're working on several cases and doing a lot of things, and you're always out and whatever. So what is the research?
That's actually interesting. Now, the guy who did 600 hours on that one case, that's not me. My purpose is not to focus on one case and spend an inordinate amount of time looking at one case. I'm not that obsessed, and B, I don't have that kind of time, and that's not the purpose of my channel. That guy, I say again, when you go there and what was the case? I forgot the case. wait.
For the.
Okay,
yeah, it was with the
the woman got shot.
It was the motorbike.
No, not the motorbike. Right. No, the woman who got shot at the church. Oh my God, Beavers, Missy Beavers. He put tremendous effort into that, and that's his thing. And he came up, and I can't complain because he came up. He's one of the very few people that's ever come up with anything that's very, very well done. Congrats on that 600 hours, dude. Do you have a life? I don't know, but then that was good. Okay. When I work a real case where I'm going with the police department, usually what happens is I go to location. This is in the past. I don't do many of these cases anymore because they don't ever. I'm always brought in way too late, like 4 to 6, 10 years too late. And even if I give them hey, this is where you need to look, it's too late. The evidence is gone, and it's like it's kind of pointless. I enjoy it, but it's pointless. So in those cases, I would fly to location. I would stay in town for a week. I'd work at the police station and just focus on that one thing. Usually 10 to 12 hours a day for the week. So I put in at that point 60, 80 hours. Then I'd fly home, and then I'd study everything I got when I was there, put in maybe another 80 hours, and then produce my analysis. That's not what I do here. I'm not being paid for that. I don't have that kind of time, and I couldn't produce this kind of show if I put in that many hours. So what I'm trying to do with these shows is when somebody offers me something, says, hey, take a look at this, I look at what I can in a reasonable amount of time. Like the last one I did was on Jimmy Savile. I did watch I watched 3 shows, 3 documentaries, and that took 2 hours, maybe 6, 7 hours time. I looked up, I researched as much as I could on the internet, and maybe another 5 hours, and I'm up to 12 hours. And then I try to put together my concepts. And then what people don't realize is that is a lot of work, but putting the show together is a lot of work too. Because first you gotta come to StreamYard, and you gotta set up the show. You gotta say, okay, I'm gonna do the show, and you gotta put all the information in, set up the time. You gotta get a thumbnail. So it's like you gotta go do something and make a thumbnail. You gotta take pictures. And for me, I use FaceApp, which says I don't like my thumbnails with this face. So I use FaceApp, and then I make myself look really pretty. Hollywood number 1, Hollywood number 2. I'm like, oh, that looks cool. I'm going to use that one. So I cheat. Like when you get to my show, you're going to say, what the hell happened to her? She aged like 20 years since I looked at the thumbnail. But, when I look at my thumbnails, they're pretty cool. Anyway, I do that. So you have to do that. And then you get that StreamYard set up. Once you do that, then you have to, and let everybody know about the show. Then when the day comes, you have to get everything set up and hope your internet works and everything else. You got to get the lights. You got to do makeup, even if it's shitty. And then you forgot to put your stickers on here properly, so that don't work. So then you get on the show, and you have the whole show to do. So it's a lot of work that goes into actually one show. And for me, because I don't edit, it makes life a lot easier. I cannot. Those people who edit, sometimes they spend 20 hours editing one show. And I would lose my damn mind. So I'm more willing to do all the research, and sometimes I do way more research than the people who edit. For example, I do know that a lot of times with Dr. Grande, I know he's reading Wikipedia because I've seen that same stuff he's saying. So he reads Wikipedia, and then he gives his psychological analysis, and then he might throw in a little crime scene thing. And then he's done in 20 minutes. But he can't, Dr. Grande is brilliant because he's found a way to do a show which just requires him sitting in a room with no editing. Well, he does some editing, but he doesn't have green screens. I do green screens. I put things behind me, and if people don't understand what I'm talking about, it's like right now, this is my virtual background. This is my house when it was cleaner, and really in nice shape when it just was built. So anyway, but not so much that way. Anyway, this is a green screen. So now I'm in London. I'm watching, Jimmy Savile's funeral, and then I do these, which I'm trying to explain things. So I put those together, and those are green screens. They're a lot of work. They're a lot of work. You got to pick all the pictures out you want to do, and then I have to use a program to put sometimes 1 or 2 or 3 in up here so I can explain things. That's a lot of work. But
so
I do
you
a lot
also
of research.
have you must have written down some agenda that you to remember to cover all your points, right?
Let me tell you a story about me and writing anything down. I wing everything. Absolutely wing everything. The only thing that keeps me going are the pictures behind me. Other than the pictures behind me, occasionally I write something or I read Wikipedia, and I have things on my iPad, but I never have an outline. This is true. I've written all my books, nonfiction or fiction. I write straight through without editing because I hate editing. And no, I don't. When I went to do a show one day. I swear to God, this is true. I went to do a show, and I had who was it? Forgot who it was. I was on a panel, right? The host was here, and it was Clint Van Zandt, the profile of Clint Van Zandt over here, right? They both have all their little notes in front of them, their little outlines, and I'm like here, going, I didn't bring anything. I never once brought anything to a television show. I can't do an outline. I swear to God, I can't do an outline. So no, I don't actually have. I do occasionally have a few notes written down, but it's pretty shabby, Benny. It really is.
Okay, but I even had notes for this.
Well, Benny, I'm glad you had the notes, because if you didn't have the notes, we'd have no show. And sometimes that's why when I forget things, people go, "Why doesn't she remember what she's talking about? Why didn't she know the name?" I'm like, "Because I have no notes, Don't have any notes." No, that's just the way I am. I'm often, when I write a report, there's obviously, proper information in those reports. because I'm actually writing for that reason. I wrote a book called The Murder of Cleopatra. Believe me, I researched my butt off on that show, and I mean my book. And I went to Egypt, did my studies. I studied. I read so many books. I have shelves of books on shipbuilding and the Nile and Roman history and Egyptian history and the Ptolemies. Blah. I got all that. I read everything. I took notes on everything. I have lots of footnotes in the books. I've got lots of. I do that for that kind of a research book, but I was usually short on an outline. And one of the reasons I can do this show is because I made a decision that I wasn't going to do the things that made me unhappy, which was editing. And if I have to do things that make this show miserable, like even I do occasionally some videos that aren't live, occasionally. They're very short videos on a news topic or something. I hate doing every one of those. I hate them because somehow talking into a camera without human beings just doesn't work for me very well. So I decided to go live with almost everything because I like people like you, Benny. I like people like Christine saying, "Oh, at least Christine is backing me up." Diet Pepsi.
It's like the interaction. You want to have a reaction. Also
and again, I have the fortune of being able to do what I want, as opposed to what I have to do because I have a producer or because I have a network. And I've done all of that, even though I got to admit, I pretty much went around all that too, because I was like, even when I started out in this business and they started asking me to do television, I made a deal with myself right back when right in the beginning. I said, I'm going to tell the truth. I'm going to lay it out exactly the way it is, and if they don't like it, they can just dump me. I'm not going to play the game. I'm not going to play their agendas. I have no idea how I lasted 15 years. I have absolutely no idea. Because I never did kowtow. I never did,
because people also like the truth, like you like the truth.
Perhaps,
also,
but still,
most people like
I was surprised. Let me put it that way. But I was also willing to lose that opportunity, because that's just who I am. I'd rather not do it than do it wrong. And so this show, I do it the way that I'm comfortable doing it. And could I have a better subscriber numbers, better algorithm? Could I get more people if I followed certain, methodologies? Yes. I'm just not willing to do them, because if I do those things, I won't enjoy doing the show, and then I might as well just quit. So I'm going to do it the way I like, that I can continue. So. Yeah.
And you should never change that, because I like the format. I prefer this format over any other, and I'm sure the patrons are agreeing with me. And after this show, I think that everybody will email you. And
let me put it this way, Benny. Benny, I will say this: I think less people like this format than would like, for example, Dr. Grande's format. I think this is true, and I'm okay with that, because I'm doing what works for me and what I want to teach. He's doing what works for him. And that's fine. So I don't, just because somebody is more successful as far as numbers of people, or how famous they are, or how much money they make, that's okay. I mean, hooray for him. You know what I mean? I just know that I have the freedom to do what I like, and I'm happy with that. And I have a smaller group, but a really cool group. And I'd rather have the group I like than everybody in the world. So I'm okay with this.
And also you get the chance to get some more intimate with all of them instead of
So I like that, because sometimes if you're just doing video after video after video and you never interact with people, then you may make really good income, and you might be very cool, but you don't actually get the interaction. And that's why I set up the Hangouts. That's why I set up this call-in. That's why I want the Patreons to be at the live shows, because I want to have a community and not just everybody and their brother comes in just to cause trouble. You know what I mean? And then it's just a big free-for-all. Which you might as well just have. It's like, and I won't even care, because I'm like, I don't know who the hell you people are, but you're weird. You know, this one comes in to call me names, and this one comes in with an agenda, and this one comes in to put in some you know, young girls, and then, you know, and I have no control, because I could get somebody to control it, but then it becomes just something I don't want to do. So I have the luxury of doing what I want unless YouTube decides I can't do it. But you know, so far they demonetize half of my stuff, but other than that, I have had a lot of freedom, you know, to be able to have the shows I want to do, provide the material I want, and I'm going to say that's pretty cool, you know, because I've spent 15 years in television going things like, so Pat, what do you think? Well, I think, oh, thank you, Pat.
yeah. So you're,
Great, I got paid, you know, great hair. Do you want me to take your makeup off? No, I'm going to take your makeup to a bar. You know,
I'm gonna keep it in the hotel.
It's free makeup, you know. You know, but I didn't get to say anything I wanted to say, you know. You cut me off, and why do you think he's a serial killer? Well, you know, he could be a serial killer. Well, thank you, Pat. I'm like, I didn't say he was a serial killer. I just said he could be, and I was going to then elaborate, but that's gone. So then they throw you out of the studio, and you walk out, and then another you know, network calls and say, can you be here 2 hours later? And you go, sure. You show up there, and you do whatever they, you know. I never said anything I wasn't, you know, I never said anything to kowtow, but I didn't also get to say a lot of stuff I wanted to say that was useful. So this is such a different thing where, you know, we can actually think, you know, discuss. And your comments on the toilet thing, I mean, what a case. I mean, it is such a weird case, and everybody has put in some ideas on the toilet case, and could it be this, and what happens here? It just helps us, you know, this is different than a grifter channel who wants to push things that aren't true to get people excited. This is actually where we actually use intelligence and logic and try to figure out, is it make sense or doesn't it make sense? You know, like, what could be true here?
And it's such a great crowd, and the patrons are such a great crowd. You know,
they are.
You know, and they're so positive and so.
And that's why I like it. And Lisa says, "Hi, Benny."
Yeah. Hi,
wait,
Lisa.
Well, now you found out. Wait a minute. Oh my God, Lisa said, "Wait a minute, you finally made it. What time?" Okay, I just checked my email and discovered that Benny is calling in. Well, Lisa, you're gonna have to start over because Benny and I have been here for almost 3 hours. But Benny's been great discussion.
We will.
You know, they'll just have to catch up.
I'm not gonna reveal what is in the glass, but you'll find out later.
I don't know.
So.
Wait a minute. Wait, did you read my snow comment? No, I didn't. Was the snow comment about melting snow, Lisa? Because no, I didn't. But that's a point. Lisa says, "Don't go." Okay, here's what you do. For all of you who arrived late, because I know it was an early show today, and for a lot of Americans, quite frankly, it was an early show. But for Benny, it was a 9 p.m. show, and now it's midnight, right? Midnight in Denmark?
Yeah, almost. Yeah.
Wait a minute. What time of year is it? It's okay. So now you don't know if it's midnight because the sun is still out.
No, it's getting dark now, but it's almost.
Wait. I have to tell you something stupid, Benny. So this is how dumb I was when I was 23. So I was at American University and DC, and I was really bored. So they're like, we have 2 possibilities for the winter session, right? January through June. Or I guess they call it spring, but let's face it, it starts in January. So they're like, you could go to London or you could go to Copenhagen or Copenhagen, right? Anyway.
Copenhagen, yeah.
Thank you. Did I get close? Okay, so I'm like, okay, well, I know London rains a lot, right? And I grew up with Hans Brinker and the stupid silver skates, and so my mother was in the Ice Capade. She was actually an Ice Capade skater. And what's weird is I actually rather sucked at it. I sucked at skating, and I actually hated skating, and I actually wasn't into blondes. I was into brunettes. So go figure why suddenly I'm thinking, and Denmark, let's face it, more brunettes than blondes. But I didn't know that. So I'm thinking, like Swedes or something. So I don't know where I got this stuff from. I was 23. So I'm thinking, this blonde guy is skating down the canals of Denmark, right? with those stupid skates, and I'm thinking how romantic it is. Now, get this. So I decided to go to Denmark rather than London. So I go to Copenhagen in January. Now, mind you, this would be fine except for the fact that I hate snow, I hate the cold, and I hate the dark.
It is completely dark.
It didn't go well. And so I'm like sitting there, such a stupid young person, right? I'm like, what was I thinking? It wasn't that I hated Denmark, it's I hated everything about cold, snow, and all that stuff. And I'm also big into spicy food, which didn't work out well either. So
no, yeah.
But I did.
But the funny thing is,
I did like liver paste on rhubarb and the red cabbage on top. That worked. But
yeah.
So I'm
and
like,
super,
yeah. So I'm like, here's what happened. I'm staying in the Collegium, right? Am I saying that right? Collegium, the college dormitory.
Collegium. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
so we left that at 9 o'clock in the morning, right? And so school started at 9 in the morning. School got out at 3. So I left in the dark, right? I got on the train. I went to Copenhagen, went to the school. 12 o'clock is lunchtime. Well, I couldn't afford any of the food outside of the cafeteria because it was so bloody expensive. It was like $20 to buy a burger at Burger King.
I didn't have most expensive in Europe.
Very expensive, even back in the day. I mean, this is 1970, whatever the hell it was. It was expensive as hell. I couldn't afford it, so I could only eat in the cafeteria, which had great smørrebrød by the time, really great. It was fabulous, but it was in the basement. So I would go to my classes, then I'd go to the basement, eat lunch, go back to my classes, and when 3 o'clock in the afternoon came, then I left college. It was dark again. So I left home in the dark, I returned in the dark. So for 5 days straight, it was dark and cold.
Exactly.
Didn't really work
That's
well.
how it is.
Mm-hmm. And I'm like,
it's like 3:30 in the afternoon. It starts getting dark, and
right. It wasn't
it's
until
crazy.
like near May and June I'm like, oh my God, I can go out. Then how you stay out all night long, and then the stupid trains close down. And it's like 1 o'clock in the morning, and you're like, do I get on the train or do I try to stay awake for 3 more hours? And then I would like try to stay awake and stagger around town, and then I'd get on the train like 5 in the morning, and then there'd be people going, push me off the train when I get to, because they're all drunk, But it wasn't until the summer hit that I was like, oh, I like this place, but then I had to leave. So I mean, I'm gonna have to come back to Denmark at the right time of year
in the summer.
And have a great time.
Yeah, you have to come in the summer because it's completely opposite. Because it will be light.
Right.
At 4 o'clock in the morning, it will be completely daylight, and until 9 o'clock. And so
I love the day. I can sleep during the day. I prefer to go to bed at 4 in the morning and sleep all the way through the morning with the light coming in on me. I find that very. I'm like, why in the world would I want to come in the summer when the light is there all the time and I enjoy that? But no, I went in January. What kind of idiot was I? I look back and I think, wow, just stupid. So my experience, I had 6 months there that I don't think I was fair to Denmark because I wasn't a winter person or a dark person or any of the things that happened. And so I was so depressed because 5 days of the week I never saw the sun, and it wasn't good for me.
You are welcome to visit our country again, and if you do, you will let me know. I'll make you a nice diet Pepsi with a little something in it, maybe. We'll see.
We'll see. I would love to tell you the truth. I would love to return to Denmark and see it in a different light than I saw it when I was in my 20s, where it just it was just unfortunate. It was an unfortunate experience because it just was the wrong time of year, and a whole bunch of reasons. But here's something I want to just tell people who travel and stay places: when you go to a country, don't form a permanent opinion on your one experience in the country, because it all depends on the weather, where you are, the people you're with, the purpose you're there for. There can be a number of reasons why. I went to Paris when I was during the time I was in Denmark. Actually, I went to Paris and I hated Paris. Really hated it. I said no desire to ever return to Paris. People were unfriendly. I didn't like the place. And about 3 years ago, a friend invited me to join her in Paris, and I ended up there was a really interesting thing that happened with her. But anyway, I ended up in Paris by myself for like 10 days.
Okay.
I had a fabulous time. I'm like,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
wine is great, the coffee's great, the food is great, the people are super friendly and they're speaking to me,
Yeah.
and I'm like, this is fun. I had a great 10 days in
Yeah.
Paris, but the original time I had a terrible time. So I always say to myself, no,
Yeah.
you never know. It might be the circumstances under which you were
Exactly.
in a place. So give it a second shot, give it a third shot. You never know. You might say, oh my God, I want to live here. You know, not in the winter.
Exactly.
But I don't know how you do.
Not in the winter. No. No. Stay
Never
away from
again
Denmark
in the winter. In the winter, I go to India, Mexico, and Hawaii.
Yeah. I understand that. Yeah.
But in the summer, I may be heading to England soon. Actually, I have somebody living in and who's just moved there, and I wanted to visit her because every time I go to England, I lived there actually for 1 month once upon a time. After I left Denmark, I lived there for 1 month in London. I don't remember it. And I've been back for work, but I always end up there for like 2 days, and like, really. So I have somebody who I know there now, and I would like to go and spend some time with him. So it's really close to Denmark. So.
Yeah, we go there all the time because my wife's brother lives in Luton.
Oh, really?
So
cool.
Yeah. So it's only a 1.5 hour flight from Denmark actually.
And the train is pretty quick too, as I remember.
Yeah.
It's not much to go from London to Copenhagen by the train and that little ferry thingy, right? I've done the ferry thing. I went to the bathroom while I was on the ferry. So I was going from there to Germany, right? And I woke up in the night and went to the bathroom, and while I was in the bathroom, they were taking the train off the ferry. And my passport was actually on the train, but I was in the bathroom on the ferry. Holy crap, I thought I was going to be one of those people that, just went back and forth between the countries forever because I had no passport. Oh my God.
You experience so many things, Pat. It's incredible.
I have traveled a lot, and I've had a great time in so many very unique places. And if Annie were here today, she'd tell you about our trip because we went to Mongolia together. And people say, "Well, what were you doing in Mongolia?" Well, mostly because I wanted to say when people said to me, "Oh, that's in outer Mongolia," I can go, "No, it isn't." It's not there. Mongolia was fascinating. We had a great time. We stayed in family yurts, and we traveled. Oh, it was amazing. It was an absolutely amazing place. So we did that in China together, and so I've been to a lot of countries, spent a lot of time in the different places.
Well, I've also been to China, but that is only but also because it's a connecting flight because I go to Philippines all the time. So I've been to Thailand. You can't
count the connecting flight. You gotta get off the plane.
I've been there. I've been to Hong Kong also.
Do you know how many times I've been to Iceland and Reykjavik, but never gotten any further than the airport? So I can't say, I know what Iceland's about because I never got out of the damn airport. It's like I'll have to go there one day and actually leave the airport so I can see the country instead of saying, I walk from the plane because then we had to walk from the plane to the terminal. It was freezing cold too, by the way. And I was going to Africa. I was actually going to West Africa, and I had like flip-flops on because I wasn't planning to wear clothes in Africa to speak of. I'm landing in Iceland. I was freezing to death. Oh my God. Oh, funny things. So many funny things. Oh, wait. Oh, that's funny. Christine says, bacterial fish rot. No, Christine, we never had the opportunity to eat bacterial fish rot. We went into this Beijing restaurant, and we got the menu, and it was literally on the menu, bacterial fish rot. And we're like, we got to try this. It's just like, we got to try it. But they were out of bacterial fish rot. It was a big seller, apparently. So
you have to do a show about that.
So we ordered the donkey, which is pretty funny because the donkey, I thought it said something like a mother of a such and such donkey. It was a really long statement, and usually they do that for tofu. Like, we got to make tofu sound more interesting, so we'll just make a big, huge, ridiculous name for it. And so I asked the waitress. I said, "Is donkey tofu?" She goes, "No, it's donkey." And I'm like, so Annie and I look at each other and we're like, no, my daughter, I have a donkey right down. It's on our property. We have a donkey. His name is Jitterbug. And so my daughter has this beautiful donkey, and he's adorable. So I'm looking at Annie, and she's like, And I'm like, okay, let's have the donkey. So we had the donkey. Dang, that donkey was good. I have to admit, great donkey. So anyway, Annie comes to visit me in Maryland, and we go out to visit the animals, and she goes to see the donkey. And I'm getting my camera ready, and I turn around, she's got a bib on her neck and a fork. I'm like, not our donkey. You can't eat our donkey. You know?
No.
So, bacterial fish rot. We have never had the opportunity to eat bacterial fish rot.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see what Molly says. I can't match Benny or you, as I only know how not to explain what's up. Good job, though. You got us going, though. That worked out really well. Let's see what else I have to say here. What? Molly says, no, you don't. The next time you call, you have to go as long as Benny. You know, it's kind of funny. I explained this to people who come to the show. I'm like, somebody said, Pat, your shows are way too long. You know, if you break them up into like 4 different parts, it would be more appealing. And I'm like, you know, there's a thing called stop.
Yeah.
And then you can come back anytime you want and watch some more. I don't actually have to break it up for you. You can do it whenever you want. But
exactly.
But apparently some people don't figure that out. Coolest pick ever. What? What pick was that? What coolest pick was that? I don't even know what it was.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what that is. Okay, you have to tell me, Lisa. Christine, what the coolest pick ever was. Wait a minute. Why do I know this word? Lisa, why do I know mortadella? I know the word. I don't know why I know the word. Tell me what the word means, because I really don't know.
It's something.
The Annie and Jitterbug picture. Annie with a donkey, yeah. We still have a donkey. We have donkey, 3 llamas, 2 alpacas, a horse. We have chickens. We have the lizard. I got the bearded dragon, a mouse, and a bunch of other things. So, oh my God! Oh, it's Italian for donkey meat. Really? Mortadella is donkey meat? No, at least it sounds better than I'm eating my donkey. I mean, now anyone who knows me knows I'm mostly vegetarian. I really am. I'm mostly a vegetarian, occasionally mostly a vegan. But when I travel, I'm like, screw it.
Yeah,
you know,
whatever.
I'm in somebody's house and they're offering me, which if you're in Mongolia, you're going to get mutton. That's all they ever offer is mutton. They don't have anything but mutton.
Yeah, mutton.
So, mutton this and mutton that. And you're like, I'm not going to say to people, I can't eat your food. I mean, it's not going to make a world of difference if I have some mutton. So I do that. But I'm not, but I, generally speaking, don't eat donkeys. But they are really kind of tasty.
I never tried it, but now I like.
They're actually
I got a feeling
pretty
I want to
decent.
try it.
Yeah, they're actually good meat. Unfortunately, no. I mean, there's some meats that I think aren't very exciting. I'm like, I don't know why. Like lamb, I personally think I'd rather have goat. If I'm going to eat meat, I'm going to eat goat, not lamb. Lamb is.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't do anything. Any of that sheep stuff. I'd like to feel them. A cute little sheep, but I don't think they taste very good. But that's just me. Yeah.
No, I think I agree with you. I think it's too sweet. The taste is too sweet.
Oh, and I did eat. Oh, I did. Wait a minute. Where is that thing? Okay, wait. No, it's not going to cooperate. Come here, kitty. Okay, I have a cat under the table. They taste really good. I just want to let you know.
They do?
Yeah.
I never tried that. I have a cat myself, but now you're giving me ideas.
Well, I wasn't intending. I wasn't intending to eat cat. What happened was, we had this Chinese restaurant down the street. It was a terrible Chinese restaurant, but very sweet people. And most of the people in the area are what we would call at the time rednecks. So there were Americans who didn't know Chinese food, and so they cooked really bad Chinese food there. And they had a couple good dishes, but most of it wasn't really good. But they were such nice people. So one day, like we picked up some takeout because we were like desperate because there was nothing open. This was years ago when nothing stayed open. And so we brought this food home. So my kids are there, and we got these different dishes. And one of them, they started eating, and my son goes, "Ma, what is this?" And I'm like, he goes, "Is this cat?" He actually said that. I'm like, no, come on, because you hear the jokes about Chinese people eating cats, right? I'm like, come on now. But it was the other white meat, so it wasn't pork, and none of us could recognize the meat, so it was like concerning. So I didn't know if it was cat. It tasted really good, but I'm like, could be, I don't know. So anyway, it was like a few months later, I went to this restaurant. It was a Russian restaurant with my ex. It was not my ex then, but anyway, we went out to dinner. And on the menu, we opened it up and it said farm-raised lion from South Africa. And I'm like, it seems absolutely wrong to eat farm-raised lion. That's just like wrong. But then I'm like, but did I eat cat from that restaurant? Should I just try to see if it's cat? So there's good news and there's bad news. Bad news is we did eat cat. The good news is cats taste way better than lions. Oh my God. So, yeah. So this cat is like the worst cat underneath my table. It's the worst cat. Look at the thing is evil. I've had this evil cat. He's the worst cat I've ever owned. It's now going on 13 years of hell, and he's still as evil as ever. And you're lucky I don't eat you, because I really think you would be better on a plate than that's a terrible cat. Okay.
I never had that thought with my cat, but now I'll be looking at her with different eyes from now.
Look at the cat and say, "Look, act right, or you're really going to be tasty." Yeah. Oh my goodness, what is it? Evil Ziggy? Seriously, the worst cat ever. I just bought Ziggy a really new cat bed, and he does seem to like the cat bed. And he hasn't pooped on my rug and floor and couch in at least a week. So maybe the cat bed. That's the worst animal ever. I'm so sorry about that. Lisa says, suggest you write your memoirs. I actually am writing some memoirs. It's about profiling. It's about my life. It's about television.
It's about Denmark, right?
Denmark might be in there. I can't tell you the name of it because it's really a cool name and I don't want to give it away. And I have to make sure I write it so I don't embarrass my children any more than I always do anyway. But, I try to be, I don't like those memoirs which take people down, and are humiliating and stuff like that. So none of that is in there. So it should be a good memoir at some point, which is mostly humorous. It's like, about life and what life's about. And I have to say the problem with me writing a memoir is my parents actually treated me very nicely. There were no drugs, there was no alcohol, I wasn't abused, I didn't grow up to be a drug addict, I didn't get, I don't have a lot of stories to tell about terrible things that happened to me, so, I can't really.
So no juicy stories from
not that kind of juicy. I have funny stories, but none of that kind of stuff, because I can't tell the tragic story of my life. No, it'll never sell outside of YouTube. I mean, outside of Amazon. So I'll do a self-pub. No. Yes, I'm going to self-pub. Unless somebody offers me. I've only had one great offer when it comes to, when they want to buy your book, they offer you a good deal. I only got one on a profiler book, and the rest of them were very small advances. And people will tell you that's a good thing because they don't feel like they've been ripped off when it doesn't sell as well. But then you can get all the money from after the advance is paid. You get all this extra money. Never happens. Believe me, if they offer you an advance and it's big, you take that sucker and you run, because chances are your book is never going to sell as well as you wish. Yeah. And I will never do another, unless the publisher offers me a huge advance, I'm going to go self-pub, because not only can will I not make any worse money, but I also like to be able to sell the books at a low rate, like $2.99 or $3.99. I don't like these $19.99 books, so I want to be able to allow people to just read the book and enjoy it, and it's just $2.99 or something. So
I'll be buying that.
All right, we're gonna go. He's gonna go to bed because it's now the sun is coming up.
Yeah, true. But
my sun is going down.
It's
getting dark. Is it dark? Oh, it's almost dark here. Your sun is coming.
It's completely dark here. But I want to thank you, Pat, because you gave me this opportunity to be on the show.
It was so much fun, Benny.
A lot of fun.
Yeah. I had a great time. I knew you'd be a fabulous guest. Definitely a fabulous guest, and you had some really great things to talk about and bring up, and I think everybody's going to enjoy the show a lot. And I'm glad you came on. I'm so glad we figured out WhatsApp.
Yeah.
That was, the issue is calling overseas, long distance, and then it costs money, and we don't want to do that because it gets really expensive. So this was cool that you figured it out, and it's worked out great. So thank you, Benny. I'm sure you'll come back another time because you have a really long list of things you want to talk about. So
I have, yeah. This was only the third part of it.
Oh my God, yeah, and often, when I do these in the future, so we're going to have a kind of, depending on what's going on, because people are still really shy, and so I love having just one guest on, which is great, but also we can also do a show where we have, 2 or 3 different people from Patreon say, put my hand up, I want to call in, and then we'll finish our conversation and go on to somebody else gets to call in. So, eventually, hopefully we'll have a mix of that. But for somebody to be able to, 3 hours with you, it's it was fabulous. So if you're late to this show, again, like and subscribe. But also, if you're anybody who's coming to see the show, especially one of the Patreons who said, I wanted to be there, but you really scheduled it at a weird time and I couldn't show up, don't forget, comments below. And Benny, check out those comments, because I'm going to say a lot of those comments are going to be for you. Especially pay attention to May, because she was the one who also wanted that toilet case. Pay attention to anything she says, and I'm going to pay attention, but I think a lot will come to you. So everybody, go ahead and comment below when I'm going to put this up in just a few minutes. And we'll see everybody's reactions to lots of fantastic concepts that you had, and lots of great discussion. It was really cool. Oh, so fun.
Thank you also to Lisa S. and Molly for breaking the ice on the call-in shows, because I never had the nerve to do it if they didn't do it. So,
see, it wasn't that hard, was it?
Yeah. No. It's just relaxing. I just had a glass of some Pepsi and with some additional stuff in, so it's no problem when you do that. Yeah.
Yeah, they say the whole concept is to have a good time and to share ideas and to.
I did. I had a fantastic time. Thank you very much.
This is great. Thank you, Benny, for being here, and I know I'm going to see you very shortly, and I know you're going to come up with yet another great case for me to do, because you always do. All right, bye everybody. Bye, Benny.